Chapter 4180. Teng Yi, one of the three giants of the heavenly god world, suddenly appeared in front of Ji Yufei. The blurry figure did not reveal a trace of aura. He did not want to alarm anyone, so he quietly appeared in front of Ji Yufei. It must be known that the current heavenly battling city was a gathering of masters, including the Dark Knight Emperor, the True Dragon Emperor, and the Nine Deaths revered god. Since this guy could appear in front of him, it seemed that he had some ability. Hiding your head and showing your tail, how dare you come here to die? Ji Yufei looked indifferently at the blurry figure in front of him. What did you say? Teng Yi was furious. This little guy dared to be presumptuous in front of him. He was one of the three progenitors of the heavenly god world. He regarded himself as the progenitor of the heavenly god world. Little guy, you're too arrogant. Teng Yi said coldly. I'm arrogant. Aren't you just a dead snake? Although you've cultivated to a half-human half-snake form, you're still a snake. Ji Yufei said indifferently. What? When Teng Yi heard this, he was extremely shocked. This was a secret that no one knew about. Even Qian Yu and his nemesis Long Kang didn't know about it. He could not believe that this guy could see through his secret at a glance. Could it be that this guy cultivated the heaven-concealing divine eye? However, although he did not know how the other party saw through his true form, there was one thing that Teng Yi knew, and that was that the person in front of him must die. His secret could not be leaked. Only the dead could not speak. Ji Yufei originally cultivated the martial path heavenly eye, and when he became an eternal supreme, the martial path heavenly eye transformed into the more powerful eternal true eye. Although Ji Yufei's cultivation had not fully recovered, only less than 1/10,000th, his eyes could see the origin of everything. In front of him, even an extreme grade supreme could not hide his true form, let alone this guy who was not even an extreme grade supreme. It was impossible for the heavenly god world to produce an extreme grade supreme, because the heavenly god world was not a complete world. It was still incomplete and could not produce an extreme grade supreme. However, this guy was still much stronger than the Nine Deaths evil lord. To him, he would be a good opponent. Kill. Without any hesitation, a shocking murderous aura erupted from Teng Yi's body. Extremely violent energy ripples spread out. Rumble, all of Heaven Battling City was shaken, and countless masters in the city were shocked. Some of the weaker experts directly exploded under the pressure from Teng Yi's body. Their bodies and souls were directly destroyed. A terrifying scene unfolded in Heaven Battling City. Cultivators kept exploding on the spot, turning into a mist of blood. Their bodies were torn to shreds, and even their essence spirits collapsed into the void. Some people were directly splashed with blood, and they were horrified. A terrifying pressure spread out in all directions. Teng Yi had only released his aura, yet countless cultivators in Heaven Battling City had already died. Ji Yufei was both shocked and angry. He never thought that this guy would actually disregard the lives and deaths of the countless cultivators in the city and directly release his most powerful aura. This guy is really unscrupulous. Teng Yi disregarded the lives and deaths of the human race and instantly killed countless humans in the city. This made Ji Yufei furious. In fact, he had learned the truth about the three giants from the Nine Deaths evil lord. The three giants were Teng Yi, Long Kang, and Qian Yu. Qian Yu was the eldest and the strongest of the three giants. Teng Yi and Long Kang respected each other and had always had grievances with each other. However, because of Qian Yu's presence, these two fellas did not dare to do anything out of line. It's Teng Yi. At this time, inside the City Lord's mansion, the Nine Deaths evil lord looked in the direction of the powerful pressure with a look of horror. Teng Yi. The Dark Knight Emperor, who was beside the Nine Deaths evil lord, heard this and his expression suddenly changed. The next moment, a monstrous battle intent erupted from his body. All the masters in the City Lord's mansion were shocked. Two extremely powerful auras had appeared in Heaven Battling City at the same time. However, the second wave of pressure was clearly weaker than the previous one. That Dark Knight brat is also here? Very good, this time I'll deal with all of you at once. Teng Yi's figure appeared in the void. His body, which seemed to be cast from peerless divine iron, exuded a sense of power as the 5-colored patterns on his half-snake body glowed. Shameless boasting. Ji Fei was still sitting cross-legged under the tree, showing no intention of standing up. You dare look down on me so much? Ting Yi was furious. He had been worshipped by the human race and other races since ancient times, and was regarded as a supreme god by those races. Teng Yi, who was usually aloof, was actually being looked down upon by a little human boy. This was difficult for him to accept. You can die now. Teng Yi stretched out his right hand and pointed a finger at Ji Fei's brow. A beam of light immediately rushed out from his fingertip and pierced towards Ji Fei's brow. Wherever this beam of light passed, it left behind a dark void crack. A cruel smile appeared on Teng Yi's face. He had lost count of the number of living beings he had killed with this move. There were geniuses from the human race and supreme experts from other races. Those so-called invincible experts had all been killed by his finger. Teng Yi felt an inexplicable sense of excitement as he watched those peerless geniuses die in his hands. He did not know when he had started to like killing geniuses. However, just as Teng Yi was about to see Ji Fei's head being pierced by his finger, the beam of light suddenly exploded less than 3 inches away from his brow. Teng Yi was shocked when he saw this. There was someone in the divine realm who could block his attack. And it was a human. How was this possible? It was impossible for there to be such an expert in the human race. The 3 great leaders are only SOSO. Ji Fei said disdainfully. This level of attack was not even comparable to the ultimate god of death. This is ridiculous. I was just casually attacking. I wasn't serious yet. Teng Yi said angrily. Then you should be serious. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to be serious. Ji Fei said calmly. Teng Yi was infuriated. He extended his right hand and grabbed at Ji Fei. A beam of light shot out from his 5 fingers like a sharp sword. If Teng Yi grabbed him, his body would definitely be pierced. Teng Yi smiled coldly when he saw that his right hand was about to grab Ji Fei. However, his smile froze the next moment. His right hand that was grabbing at Ji Fei also stopped as if it had hit an invisible wall. No matter how much he urged his divine power, his right hand was blocked a few inches away from Ji Fei. It was difficult for him to move any further. What? Chapter 4181. The 3 magnates of the heavenly divine realm were invincible in the eyes of the experts of the heavenly divine realm. Even when the Dark Knight Emperor had charged into the heavenly god realm and swept through the 4 divine regions of the heavenly god realm, his might had shaken the world. He had been chased away by the 3 big shots when he had attacked the central divine region. For the Dark Knight Emperor, it was an unforgettable humiliation for him. However, it must be said that the Dark Knight Emperor's luck was really bad. After preparing for countless months, he thought that he could once again attack the heavenly divine realm and settle the score with the 3 magnates, but then a Ji Fei appeared out of nowhere. The Dark Knight Emperor was not a match for Ji Fei, and he even became Ji Fei's servant. This made the Dark Knight Emperor want to die. It's Teng Yi, one of the 3 magnates. The other 2 magnates did not come, so the Dark Knight Emperor quickly rushed out of the City Lord's mansion. True Dragon Emperor, 9 Death Evil Lord and the others also rushed out. At this time, in the backyard of the City Lord's mansion, Ji Fei was still sitting cross-legged under a big tree, and in front of him stood a half-human half-snake guy. It really is Teng Yi. When the Dark Knight Emperor saw that figure, his eyes immediately turned red, and he wanted to rush up and fight with Teng Yi. Teng Yi actually went to find the master. 9 Death Evil Lord's expression was extremely ugly. He had betrayed the 3 magnates and sided with Ji Fei. He was a traitor, and the 3 magnates only had one way to deal with traitors, and that was to kill. That day, 9 Death Evil Lord almost died in Teng Yi's hands. If Teng Yi defeated Ji Fei, then he would also be buried with him. Thinking of this, 9 Death Evil Lord could not help but panic, but he did not dare to run away. One should know that Ji Fei only needed a thought to destroy his body and soul. Who dared to run away? Everyone present did not dare to run away, because once they did, they would anger the master, and then they would die. Therefore, no one dared to run away. At this time, Teng Yi used all his strength, but his right hand could not reach forward even an inch. Ji Fei was in front of him, but Ting Yi could not catch him, which made him indescribably shocked. Damn it! Ting Yi knew that he had kicked an iron plate today. Whoosh! He immediately retreated. However, just as Ting Yi was about to move, a hand suddenly reached out and grabbed his right hand. Then, the hand threw him away. Ting Yi was immediately thrown out of Heaven Battling City by Ji Fei, as if he was riding a cloud. Seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. If he can't win, he'll run? Ji Fei said coldly. He stood up and stretched his body. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared under the tree. Even the Dark Knight Emperor and the Nine Deaths Evil Lord were unable to see how Ji Fei had disappeared and where he had gone, because Ji Fei's speed was simply too fast. With the departure of Teng Yi and Ji Fei, the pressure on everyone's hearts also disappeared. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. At this time, all the surviving cultivators in the city felt that it was good to be alive. Boom! The next moment, a loud noise came from the starry sky. Stars directly exploded in the sky. A battle between supreme powerhouses had broken out. In the depths of the starry sky, Teng Yi and Ji Fei finally started fighting. The Dark Knight Emperor and the others hurriedly rushed into the starry sky to watch the battle. A battle of this level was not something that could be seen every day, because existences of this level would not easily take action. If it was not for Ji Fei being too powerful and pointing his sword at the central celestial territory, wanting to take away the source of heaven and earth, the three magnates would not have appeared in front of the world again. At this time, in the depths of the starry sky, two figures were moving rapidly. Everywhere they passed, stars exploded, and the void was easily torn and shattered. The more Teng Yi fought, the more shocked he became. Only now did he realize that he had seriously underestimated Ji Fei. Only a ferocious dragon would not cross the river. Eat my fists! Teng Yi roared. In the next moment, he punched out. Then, 9 balls of divine light rushed out from his fist and blasted at Ji Fei. Rumble! The power that erupted from the 9 balls of divine light was earth-shattering. The surrounding stars were falling continuously, and it was as terrifying as the end of the world. Eat my fist too. As Ji Fei spoke, he also punched out to meet the other party's fist. The two fists collided in an instant, causing a loud explosion. The 9 balls of divine light dissipated in the void at the same time, as if they had never appeared. In the next moment, Teng Yi screamed in pain and flew backward. His entire right arm was bent in a strange way. It was just a punch, but Sumo had crippled Teng Yi's arm. Master is actually so powerful. The Dark Knight Emperor and the others were surprised and overjoyed. Who are you? Teng Yi stared at Ji Fei fiercely and said while gritting his teeth. His right arm was recovering rapidly, and the aura exuding from his body was getting stronger. Ji Fei did not say a word. His fist had already smashed in front of Teng Yi. Great hand of destruction. Teng Yi roared angrily and displayed his trump card. A terrifying power of destruction surged from Teng Yi's hand, and the void was annihilated silently. Under the engulfment of the power of the annihilation fist, everything turned into dust. A sword from the east. Ji Fei used his hand as a sword and slashed in the void. A dazzling swordlight immediately rushed out from his hand, and in an instant, it cut through the void of heaven and earth, directly breaking through the mighty power of destruction. The swordlight contained a trace of eternal power. It was the power of the eternal sword principle. When had eternal power ever appeared in the heavenly divine realm? Ji Fei added the trace of eternal power to the swordlight, causing it to be indestructible and indestructible. No one could withstand such a sword. Even Teng Yi, one of the 3 magnates, could not. With a blood-curdling scream, one of Teng Yi's arms flew off. In the next moment, the magnet broke the void and escaped into the chaos. He escaped. Ji Fei was a little surprised. An existence of this level had actually escaped. An arm fell from the starry sky. It was a severed arm of an existence much stronger than an ultimate god or a great emperor. Every drop of blood that fell contained a powerful essence. Such essence blood was definitely the favorite of alchemists. Of course, Not all alchemists could refine such essence blood. The alchemy emperor had also submitted to Ji Fei. No one dared to go forward to take the severed arm, but the alchemy emperor did not care. He directly rushed forward and snatched the severed arm. This guy, all the emperors were extremely jealous. That was the flesh and blood of an existence that surpassed an ultimate god or a great emperor. It was comparable to a peerless divine medicine. Even a bite could improve one's cultivation level. Even Teng Yi is no match for master. At that moment, Ji Fei's camp was in an uproar. Chapter 4182. There was no doubt that the three magnates of the heavenly god realm were powerful. They were all super old antiques who had lived since the primordial era. For countless years, they ruled over everything in the heavenly god realm and controlled the fates of countless living beings. Since ancient times, they had been involved in every major event that had happened in the heavenly god realm. Sometimes, living for a long time was also an advantage. After countless years of accumulation and cultivation, no one knew what level the cultivation of these three giants had reached. However, Ji Fei had defeated one of them with one sword strike. Everyone was dumbfounded. Teng Yi, one of the three magnates of the heavenly god realm, had one of his arms cut off by Ji Fei. Everyone found it hard to believe, but they had to believe it because many of them had seen it with their own eyes. Ji Fei's camp was in an uproar. Everyone was shocked. Master defeated Teng Yi, one of the three magnates. Is it true? Countless cultivators in heavenly battling city spread the news. The whole city was boiling. At first, many people didn't think that Ji Fei would win because the three magnates weren't ordinary existences. They had lived for countless years and were super antiques at the totem level. That year, the Dark Knight Emperor had been high-spirited. He had wanted to conquer the heavenly god realm and sweep over the four divine regions. However, he had failed in the central divine region. At this moment, the Dark Knight Emperor looked at Ji Fei, who was sitting on the throne in the middle of the hall with a complicated expression. He would never understand his master. That year, it was Teng Yi who had driven him out of the heavenly god realm. Thinking of this, the Dark Knight Emperor's face darkened. Right at this moment, a part of the void above the incipient god mountain collapsed. A figure broke the void and appeared on the peak of the incipient god mountain. It was a creature of the alien race, half human and half snake. One of his arms had been cut off. His body was covered with blood. He looked extremely miserable. What, on the peak of the incipient god mountain, Long Kang and Qian Yu couldn't help but be shocked. Roar. Teng Yi looked up to the sky and roared. Terrifying sound waves spread out, shaking the entire void. It was as horrible as the end of the world. Stars kept exploding in the starry sky. The spiritual energy of the world in the surroundings gathered towards him in a frenzy. It was as if he was enveloped by a ball of divine fire. Boom. Just then, a muffled sound rang out as the void trembled. A powerful shockwave burst forth from Teng Yi's body. The void rippled like water. Teng Yi landed directly on the peak of incipient God Mountain. His broken arm had grown back as if he had never been hurt. What's going on? On the mountain peak, Qian Yu was extremely shocked. There was actually someone in the heavenly god realm who could injure Teng Yi. Teng Yi was one of the three big shots of the heavenly god realm. Chimph, do you even need to ask? He must have kicked an iron plate. Long Kang said coldly. The happiest thing for him was to see Teng Yi suffer. However, the news of Teng Yi's defeat quickly spread and everyone was shocked. Ji Fei had defeated a giant with a single sword strike, and the morale of the camp skyrocketed. When the news of Ji Fei killing a giant with a single sword strike spread, the morale of his subordinates soared. At this time, the entire heavenly god realm was filled with powerful cultivators of the divine way. Their powerful auras filled the world. At this time, all the major forces of the central divine realm were preparing for battle. This was definitely the strongest battle in the history of the heavenly god realm. The entire heavenly battling city was overcrowded. Outside the central divine realm, banners fluttered in the wind and wild beasts roared. It was very lively. All the experts of the central divine realm had come, including some ancient existences who had gone into seclusion a long time ago. In the 5 great regions of the heavenly god realm, powerful gods were constantly awakened from their slumber. Some of the fallen gods began to reappear. However, these gods were the descendants of the 3 big shots. In heavenly battling city of the southern divine region. After Teng Yi's battle, the number of cultivators in the city had decreased by more than half. At this time, blood could be seen everywhere in heavenly battling city. Teng Yi didn't care about the lives of the humans and other living beings. Wang family, Wang Xuanji, a newly ascended god emperor. Experts from all sides were fighting to meet him. This cultivation family that had existed for countless years was almost facing extinction. At this time, another god emperor had appeared in the Wang family. Other forces wouldn't dare to attack a family with a god emperor overseeing it. If a god emperor wasn't present, other forces would attack. In the best-case scenario, they would lose everything. In the worst-case scenario, they might even lose their lives. The Southern Heaven God Emperor didn't show himself. However, someone saw his daughter, Xian Shi, appear in the City Lord's mansion of Heavenly Battling City. The daughter of the Southern Heaven God Emperor was friends with Ji Yu Fei. This was the reason why Ji Yu Fei didn't cause trouble for the Southern Heaven God Emperor. In the Southern Divine Region, only the Southern Heaven God Emperor still stood tall. The Southern Heaven Divine Palace almost had a huge internal problem. In fact, Ji Yu Fei didn't really care about anything. He was still very calm as he pointed his sword at the Central Divine Region. However, his subordinates were extremely excited as if they had been injected with chicken blood. That was the Central Divine Region. Since ancient times, who dared to point their sword at the Central Divine Region? Back then, the Dark Knight Emperor had pointed his sword at the Central Divine Region, but he was chased away by the 3 powerhouses. To the Dark Knight Emperor, it was definitely the greatest humiliation of his life. Now, Ji Yu Fei was stronger and more powerful than the Dark Knight Emperor. Whether it was the True Dragon Emperor, the Dark Knight Emperor, or the 9 Deaths Divine Lord, each of them was pitilessly powerful. Mo Yuan was also very strong. At least, he had once driven away the heaven-trampling evil emperor. Of course, the heaven-trampling evil emperor was already dead. Ji Yu Fei had eliminated the heaven-trampling evil emperor's forces and taken over all the territories that originally belonged to him. However, this indirectly offended a certain force in the Central Divine Region. However, Ji Yu Fei didn't care. In the heavenly god realm, he didn't fear anyone. The eternal true bone was the source of Ji Yu Fei's confidence. Teng Yi, you're really getting worse and worse. You can't even beat a little guy of the human race. How embarrassing, Long Kang said. Come and fight him if you can. Let's see how long you can last against that kid. On the peak of incipient God Mountain, Teng Yi stared at Long Kang coldly and said, "Fine, I'll go and bring that kid's head back," Long Kang said loudly. Long Kang shouted loudly. He actually transformed into a figure and soared into the sky, disappearing under the gloomy sky without a trace. At this time, Ji Yu Fei had returned to Heavenly Battling City in the Southern Divine Region. He was still sitting cross-legged under the big tree behind the City Lord's mansion. However, before he could even sit down, another figure appeared in front of him. Preposterous. Ji Yu Fei was a little annoyed. Then, the consequences would be severe. You're Ji Yu Fei? You defeated Teng Yi? The man stared at Ji Yu Fei and said coldly. You're with that guy? Ji Yu Fei was enraged. Haha, good, very good. Ji Yu Fei laughed in anger. That Teng Yi was lucky to have escaped quickly. Otherwise, Ji Yu Fei would have killed that fellow long ago. Although Hierarch and Great Emperor were powerful, they were nothing in Ji Yu Fei's eyes. At this time, the entire heavenly god realm was divided into 2 camps. One was the 3 powerhouses, and the other was Ji Yu Fei, who had killed a powerhouse with a single sword strike. The 3 powerhouses had operated in the heavenly god realm for countless years and were extremely powerful. Ji Yu Fei's forces, which had just been established, could not be compared to them. However, Ji Yu Fei could challenge the entire Central Divine Region alone. He was invincible wherever he pointed his sword. Why are you still laughing when you're about to die? Long Kang looked at Ji Yu Fei with disdain and said coldly. There are many people in this world who want to kill me, but they can't. In the end, I killed them all, Jiyu Fei said indifferently. Is that so? I can only say that they're too weak. Long Kang was very confident. Haha, interesting. Let's see what you're capable of. Jiyu Fei laughed. This fellow wasn't confident, he was simply arrogant. Go to hell. Long Kang did not waste any more time and stretched out his right hand to grab Jiyu Fei's head. His 5 extremely sharp fingers were like 5 extremely sharp little swords stabbing towards Jiyu Fei's head. Jiyu Fei remained motionless and did not even bat an eyelid. Long Kang's lips curled into a sneer. At that moment, his smile suddenly froze on his face. His right hand that was about to grab Jiyu Fei's head stopped above Jiyu Fei's head and could not go any further. What? Long Kang was extremely shocked. He knew very well how powerful his grab was. Even a peerless ultimate god would be killed by his grab, let alone a mere human. Roar. Long Kang kept roaring as his right hand was surrounded by divine light. No matter how hard he tried, he could not shake Jiyu Fei's defensive power at all. It was unbelievable. No wonder Teng Yi was in such a sorry state. It seemed that Jiyu Fei was not as simple as he seemed. Jiyu Fei could cut off one of Teng Yi's arms, so he could naturally deal with Long Kang. It seemed like he was too impulsive. Long Kang broke out in cold sweat when he thought of Teng Yi's sorry state. How could this little guy named Jiyu Fei be more powerful than him and the others? Long Kang could not believe it at all. Is that all you're capable of? Jiyu Fei suddenly looked up at the shocked Long Kang and said. What? Long Kang wanted to retreat, but at that moment, Jiyu Fei reached out and grabbed his right hand. Long Kang's entire body was lifted off the ground with a sudden force. The next moment, Jiyu Fei slammed Long Kang on the ground. Boom! A muffled sound was heard as Long Kang slammed hard on the ground. Dust filled the air as a human-shaped pit appeared on the ground. Cough cough. Long Kang was dumbfounded and coughed continuously as he choked on the dust. Chapter 4183. In front of Jiyu Fei, Long Kang was not an opponent at all. As soon as Jiyu Fei took action, this insufferably arrogant guy fell flat on his face like a dog eating shit, leaving him in an extremely sorry state. Who? Long Kang was so angry that he almost went crazy. He roared as the power in his body burst out, directly destroying everything around him. He did not care about anything else. He wanted to use the blood of his opponent to wash away the shame he had brought him, even if he had to pay the price of the countless lives in Heaven Battling City. However, at this moment, a peerless jade-like palm pressed on his head. 9 Dao patterns rushed out from the palm and entered his body. Then, they appeared on his body. In the next moment, the tyrannical power that was about to erupt from Long Kang's body was forcibly suppressed by the Dao veins that rushed out from the palm. Long Kang was both shocked and angry. The tyrannical power that was about to erupt was actually suppressed by his opponent's divine body. As a result, his divine body had to bear this power directly. In the next moment, Long Kang's whole body swelled up like a balloon, like an inflatable puppet, blood oozing from his 7 orifices, making him look extremely ferocious. His divine body, which had been tempered 1,000 times over, was now covered in bloody marks, his bones broken, and some of them even pierced out of his body. Although Long Kang's divine body was extremely powerful, he could barely hold on. He did not want to blow himself up, but if his divine body were to explode, it would be no different from blowing himself up, and the destructive power would definitely be on a heaven-destroying level. Not to mention Heaven Battling City, even all the creatures living near it would suffer. Hateful. Long Kang desperately tried to control the violent power in his body. Countless Dao veins rushed out from his body, burning every drop of blood, every bone, and every strand of hair. Under Long Kang's desperate control, his divine body did not explode in the end, but his divine body suffered an unimaginable impact, almost injuring its source. Come in. At this time, Jiyu Fei directly broke the void and took the Dragon Kang into his inner world. The devouring power spread out and even the Dark Knight Emperor and the others who were watching the battle were taken into his inner world. In the next moment, Jiyu Fei's figure disappeared into the void. No one could see where he went. The The Dark Knight Emperor and the others were indescribably shocked. They realized that they had entered an unfamiliar world in an instant. The heaven and earth spiritual chi here was actually several times denser than the outside world. Bathing in the spiritual energy, they felt extremely comfortable. Boom! Bam! The dull sound of collision startled everyone. In the mountain ridge in front of them, two silhouettes were moving quickly. A powerful pressure shook the heavens and the earth, causing the entire mountain ridge to tremble. This was Ji Yufei's inner world. Here, Ji Yufei was the master of everything and could control anyone's life and death. Fighting here could avoid affecting the outside world. Moreover, Ji Yufei could mobilize the power of the entire heaven and earth at any time. In this way, even if the Dragon Kang was stronger, it was impossible for him to be a match for Ji Yufei. In Ji Yufei's inner world, Ji Yufei could control the range of the power waves that erupted from the two experts to minimize the damage of this battle. At this time, the Dragon Kang was almost going crazy. His body shook and a violent aura immediately surged from his body. An old dragon appeared in the sky. This was a purple dragon. Its scales were like peerless purple gold, emitting a destructive purple light. Its body was like a mountain range coiled in the void. It was extremely huge. "You've shown your true form. Come and die." Ji Yufei looked at the purple gold dragon indifferently. Compared to the purple gold water dragon, he was really too small. However, his small body contained much more power than the purple gold water dragon. "You better come here and let me eat you." The purple gold dragon stared at Ji Yufei and spoke in the human language. Ji Yufei did not speak. "Die." In the next moment, the purple gold dragon pounced directly at Ji Yufei. Its huge dragon claw. Swoosh. Like a poisonous snake coming out of its hole, it clawed at Ji Yufei at lightning speed. The whole heaven and earth immediately turned cold. "Dragon claw? What can you catch? Scratch my itch." Ji Yufei sneered and did not dodge. "Go to hell." Seeing that Ji Yufei did not dodge, the Dragon Kang grinned and the power of the dragon claw increased. Bang! Long Kang's flood dragon claw ruthlessly smashed onto Ji Yufei's head. "Master," when the Dark Knight Emperor and the others saw this, they were extremely shocked. The power of the dragon claw was fierce, but the divine Dao Yuan Qi cultivated was extremely cold. The cold divine Dao Yuan Qi could invade the opponent's body and directly shatter the internal organs. Even if the opponent's divine Dao cultivation was comparable to the Dragon Kang's, they would still die after being hit by the dragon claw. Ji Yufei was slapped by Long Kang's claw. How could he still be alive? However, the purple gold dragon that the Dragon Kang had transformed into was shocked in the next moment. At the same time, Ji Yufei let out a roar and his body shook. His clothes immediately shattered into thousands of pieces, fluttering in the air like butterflies. Oh no! The Dragon Kang only felt a strong force erupt from the opponent's body. He turned pale with fright and hurriedly tried to retreat. However, at this moment, Ji Yufei stretched out his right hand and grabbed Long Kang's dragon claw with his 5 fingers. Then, he pulled hard. The Dragon Kang screamed and blood splattered. The entire claw was actually torn off by Ji Yufei, and the dragon blood splattered everywhere. Bang! Ji Yufei directly kicked the flood dragon's head, and a bone-chilling sound of bones breaking rang out. Dragon Kang's entire flood dragon's head caved in from the kick, and he was directly sent flying backward. The Dark Knight Emperor and the others saw this scene and were dumbfounded. This scene was simply too shocking. To think that a puny human could send a dragon the size of a mountain flying with a single kick. It was truly hard to imagine just how much power was hidden within this body. One of the 3 big shots of the heavenly god realm, Long Kang, was defeated just like that. The purple gold dragon that the Dragon Kang had transformed into was directly sent flying for hundreds of thousands of miles, directly smashing into the depths of the mountain ridges. More than 10 mountains were directly smashed into pieces. Ji Yufei took a step and instantly caught up with the Dragon Kang, then he stomped the Dragon Kang into the ground. Boom! A loud noise was heard, and the ground shook violently like a wave. The mountains in the distance were directly smashed into pieces, and dust rose into the sky. It was horrifying. The three magnates are just trash. As Ji Yufei spoke, he exerted force with his right foot. Crack! With a sound, the Dragon Kang's head, which was even bigger than a small mountain, was stomped into pieces by his foot. It was just like stomping an ant to death. However, it was not an ant, but a dragon. A dragon with the blood of a real dragon in its body, and the blood of the real dragon had been awakened. Otherwise, it would not be possible for the three magnates of the heavenly divine realm to be on an equal footing with Teng Yi and Qian Yu. Master, the Dark Knight Emperor and the others were really shocked by this scene. This scene was really too unreal. The combat power displayed by Ji Yufei was too shocking. Dragon Kang is dead. Everyone was dumbfounded, as if the whole world was about to be destroyed. That was Dragon Kang, one of the three magnates of the heavenly divine realm, but he was actually stomped to death by Ji Yufei. Since when did ultimate gods become so valuable? In Ji Yufei's opinion, the ultimate gods of the heavenly divine realm were just a group of small fries. There were too few places where he could fight. Ji Yufei stomped Dragon Kang to death, which made the Dark Knight Emperor and the others surprised and happy. They had not yet attacked the central celestial realm, but Ji Yufei had already consecutively defeated the two magnates of the central celestial realm, and even stomped Dragon Kang to death. It seemed like it was only a matter of time before Ji Yufei unified the entire heavenly divine realm. Who else in the heavenly divine realm could compete with Ji Yufei? At this time, in Ji Yufei's inner world, a white-clothed woman holding a little girl's hand walked out of a valley. "It's Master's aura," said the little girl. She was like a fairy of heaven and earth, and her body was surrounded by a celestial aura. She looked at the white-clothed woman innocently and said, "At least he still remembers us." The lady in white looked in Ji Yufei's direction with a smile on her face. Just when Ji Yufei stomped Dragon Kang to death, Qian Yu and Teng Yi, who were on the peak of incipient God Mountain in the central celestial realm, suddenly felt something and revealed a frightened expression. "Who is it? Who dares to kill our people?" Qian Yu roared angrily, and a terrifying murderous aura burst out from his body. The entire heaven and earth shook, and the temperature of the entire world dropped rapidly under the impact of the murderous aura. Dragon Kang is dead. Could it be that he killed Dragon Kang? Teng Yi's face turned pale. He could vaguely guess who killed Dragon Kang. In the entire heavenly divine realm, only that fella had the ability to kill Dragon Kang. "Boss, I know who killed Dragon Kang," Teng Yi said with a solemn face. "Who?" Qian Yu heard him and immediately became spirited. "It's that Ji Yufei." Teng Yi's forehead was sweating when he thought about Ji Yufei's strength. "It's him." Qian Yu's murderous aura became thicker, and the entire sky darkened. Lightning flashed in the sky, illuminating the entire place. In the central celestial realm, on the peak of incipient God Mountain, Qian Yu stretched out his right hand and a divine weapon flew into his hand. Qian Yu held the divine weapon, and in the next moment, a powerful force burst out from his body and was poured into the divine weapon in his hand. Buzz! The divine weapon in Qian Yu's hand shook violently. Then, many ancient divine marks appeared on the divine weapon, and a powerful energy burst out from the divine weapon. It was like a terrifying heavenly beast that had been in a deep sleep had awakened. "I'm going to see if this Ji Yufei has 3 heads and 6 arms to kill Dragon Kang." Chapter 4184. The whole heavenly god realm was in an incomparably turbulent state. All kinds of forces appeared on the scene, and even some ancient forces appeared. The heavenly serpent race was undoubtedly one of the strongest races among the ancient races. This race had lived in seclusion in the heavenly god realm's East Marsh for generations. Long Kang was from the heavenly serpent race. When the news that Long Kang had been stomped to death by Ji Yufei reached Eastern Swamp, the entire heavenly serpent clan was filled with grief and indignation. It should be known that the heavenly serpent clan had relied on Long Kang to survive. However, Long Kang was now dead. Their backbone was dead. This was undoubtedly the end of the heavenly serpent tribe. The entire tribe was gloomy and gloomy. At this moment, in Ji Yufei's inner world, Ji Yufei had already chased the Dark Knight Emperor and the others out of the inner world because Yang had arrived. Yang had arrived. Her clothes were whiter than snow, and she was holding her disciple little spirit fairy Er's hand as she leisurely walked over. She was like a supreme fairy, elegant and otherworldly. Little Ling Xian was her disciple. Of course, it could also be said that she and Ji Yufei shared the same disciple, because little Ling Xian respectfully addressed the two as masters. Of course, Ji Yufei didn't care about it. Yang naturally wouldn't care about it either. I heard you were injured. Is that true? Yang asked with concern as she led little spirit fairy to Ji Yufei. Who's so talkative? Ji Yufei said. Could it be those two girls? When Ji Yufei ascended to the heavenly god realm, he sent Zhu Ziru and Mo Xian into the inner world and let them cultivate there. He didn't pay much attention to them. As the saying goes, the master leads the way, but cultivation depends on the individual. Ji Yufei passed on the technique to Zhu Ziru, allowing her to cultivate and comprehend it on her own. He did not interfere too much. As for Mo Xian, she wasn't his direct disciple. She was only an in-name disciple. I'm very curious, who in this world can hurt you? Yang said. She was very clear about Ji Yufei's cultivation. He was extremely powerful and invincible, and he could sweep through the myriad of worlds. Who could be a match for him? Ji Yufei smiled awkwardly. Hey, your cultivation, Yang suddenly exclaimed. With her cultivation, she could naturally see through Ji Yufei's cultivation at a glance. He was sent into the cycle of reincarnation, Ji Yufei said. What? Yang was shocked. She didn't know about the battle between Ji Yufei and the first primogenitor. She also didn't know that the first primogenitor used his life to force Ji Yufei into the cycle of reincarnation. He wanted Ji Yufei to perish in the cycle of reincarnation. What the hell is going on? Yang expression became dignified. This was not a trivial matter. Ji Yufei was the backbone of their family. If Ji Yufei collapsed, their family would be finished. In the world of cultivation, it was all about one's fists. Only when one's fists were strong would others respect you. The weak were destined to be eliminated. Therefore, Ji Yufei told Yang about his battle with the first demon progenitor. I didn't expect the demons of the ancestors' world to have such existences. After Yang heard this, she was truly frightened. Ji Yufei had nearly been defeated. In a battle of this level, defeat would mean death. Master, what is a demon? Are demons bad people? Little spirit fairy suddenly raised her head and asked Yang. Demons are not humans, and not all demons are bad demons, Yang said as she touched little spirit fairy's head. A demon injured Master Ji Yufei. How is it not a bad demon? Little spirit fairy asked doubtfully. You will understand when you grow up. Yang said. Although little spirit fairy had been sent into the inner world by Ji Yufei for a long time, her growth seemed to be very slow. She was still like a child. However, under Yang's guidance, little spirit fairy's cultivation improved very quickly. At such a young age, she was already an immortal expert. Let's go back first. Ji Yufei said. Okay. Yang nodded, held little spirit fairy's hand, and flew in the direction of the valley. When they returned to the valley, the higher-ups of the Meng clan and the undead spirit clan were already waiting outside the valley. They were extremely excited. It should be noted that Ji Yufei rarely returned to the inner world. Now that he was back, they naturally had to pay their respects. However, those people were blocked outside the entrance of the valley by two servants. Even though the cultivation of the two maids wasn't that great, no one dared to act presumptuously. The three lords of the dead spirits and the ancestor of the Meng family were all very respectful as they waited outside the entrance of the valley. When they saw Ji Yufei and Yang return together, everyone waiting outside the valley knelt before them. Welcome, Master, everyone said in unison. All of you can leave, Ji Yufei said. Then, he walked directly into the valley with Yang. Everyone waited until Ji Yufei and Yang entered the valley before standing up and leaving. However, the patriarch of the Meng clan and the three undead spirit lords did not leave. They still waited outside the entrance of the valley. Ji Yufei and Yang naturally had a lot to talk about after their reunion. Ji Yufei stayed in the valley for 3 days in a row. During these 3 days, He summoned the old ancestor of the Meng clan and the 3 lords of the dead spirits of the Dead Spirit clan. He also entered the depths of the inner world to see the immortal ancestral dragon Divine Medicine. There were divine medicines all around the heavenly spring of life. Any one of them had the effect of reviving the dead. Any one of them would cause a stir in the heavenly divine world. Jiyu Fei did not touch the divine medicines near the heavenly spring of life. Instead, he asked for a drop of blood essence from the immortal ancestral dragon Divine Medicine. This was something that could save one's life. Even if one was on the brink of death, as long as he ate this drop of blood essence, he could instantly recover. Jiyu Fei originally wanted to see Zhu Ziru and Mo Xian, but they were in seclusion. He did not want to disturb them. On the 4th day, Jiyu Fei walked out of the valley. Swoosh! Jiyu Fei turned into a divine light and instantly disappeared between heaven and earth. In the valley, a woman in white looked in the direction where Jiyu Fei disappeared with a calm expression. Master, where is Master Jiyu Fei going? Little Ling Xian asked. He is going to do what the lords want to do, Yang said. What the lords want to do? Little Ling Xian asked curiously. Well, let's go back. Yang said and led little Ling Xian into the depths of the valley. At this time, in the heavenly battling city of the heavenly divine world, countless divine realm experts gathered in the city. The whole city was waving flags and wild beasts roaring. Many powerful figures appeared in the city. A divine phoenix flew over from the east. A man in green sat cross-legged on the back of the divine phoenix. The phoenix race is here. Some old gods in the city were surprised to see this. The phoenix race in the southern divine region was a race that had lived in seclusion for countless years. In the distant past, the phoenix race and the heavenly serpent race were equally famous. The heavenly serpent race produced Long Kang, while the phoenix race's peerless expert had fallen. Therefore, the current phoenix race was inferior to the heavenly serpent race. However, when the news that Long Kang was killed by Jiyu Fei spread, the phoenix race could not sit still. The hidden races had once again appeared in everyone's field of vision. This was a major event, and the power structure of the entire heavenly god realm had received a great impact. A new order was forming. Rumble, at this moment, in the west, a golden lion stepped through the void and rushed towards Heaven Battling City. This was an extremely powerful golden lion emperor, a peerless power that caused the world to tremble beneath its feet. The golden lion race has also come out. Someone exclaimed. Both the phoenix race and the golden lion race were once the strongest races in the southern divine region. They had once dominated the fate of the southern divine region. Everyone thought that the ancient race had been annihilated in the long river of time. Who would have thought that they still existed? The strength of the ancient race was undeniable. The experts of the phoenix race and the golden lion race were godly venerable level existences. Godly venerable was a legendary existence, but now, with the appearance of the ancient race, the number of godly venerable experts had increased. These guys had cultivated for countless months. Their cultivation and combat power were so high that they were the top existences in the entire heavenly divine realm. Only guys of this level were qualified to follow Jiyu Fei to conquer the central divine region. Soon, another ruthless person arrived outside Heavenly Battling City. It was a brawny man riding a howling moon celestial wolf with a pair of bronze hammers in his hands. Isn't that the howling moon battle ancestor? Someone recognized the brawny man. The howling moon race has also come out. An old god sighed. The arrival of these experts at Heavenly Battling City naturally meant that the rulers of these forces wanted to submit to Jiyu Fei and submit to Jiyu Fei. It should be known that the current ruler of the southern divine region was Jiyu Fei. Naturally, these ancient clans had come to pay their respects to Jiyu Fei. The Howling Moon race, the Phoenix race, and the Golden Lion race were ancient clans that had existed for countless years. Their heritage was incomparably deep, but now, these ancient clans had no choice but to choose a side. The consequences of standing on the wrong side were very serious. These ancient clans would not come until the last moment. It should be known that no one was willing to be someone else's slave. However, if they did not surrender, the consequences would be very serious. If Jiyu Fei became angry, it was very likely that he would attack the ancient clans. At that time, it would be too late to beg for mercy. Ji Yufei was not a cruel and merciless person, but if someone made him unhappy, he would deal with them with lightning speed. Just as the experts of the great clans of the southern divine region gathered in heavenly battling city, the void above the city suddenly rippled like water. In the next moment, a figure walked out of the trembling void. This person was none other than Ji Yufei. "Welcome, my lord." Just as Ji Yufei appeared, such a voice came from the city lord's residence. At this time, the Dark Knight Emperor and the others came out of the house to welcome him. All the experts in the city stared at the figure in the sky. "That person is Ji Yufei?" Someone in the city said in a low voice. "Yes, he is," an old god said. High up in the sky, Ji Yufei was welcomed into the city lord's residence by the Dark Knight Emperor and the others. Soon, news spread that Ji Yufei would personally lead an army to attack the central divine region the next day. It's time. Chapter 4185. On the second day after Ji Yufei came out of his inner world, countless soldiers clad in divine armor and wielding spears appeared in the sky above heaven battling city. These were the soldiers the great forces of the southern divine region had gathered. There were the Howling Moon race, the Phoenix race, the Golden Lion race, and the countless soldiers and generals under God Emperor Tatian. The murderous aura from countless divine generals and heavenly soldiers gathered together to form a monstrous murderous aura. Even an ultimate god would be shocked by such a terrifying aura. The heavenly god realm was a superior world. The cultivation system here was relatively complete, and countless divine soldiers and generals could set up battle formations that allowed them to challenge even stronger existences. It could be said that Heaven Battling City was the focus of the Southern Divine Region right now. Countless forces of the Southern Divine Region had sent their elites to Heaven Battling City to attack the Central Divine Region with Ji Yufei. To the living beings of the Eastern, Southern, Western, and Northern Divine Domains, the Central Divine Domain was the supreme divine land. The living beings of the four divine domains cultivated their entire lives just to enter the Central Divine Domain. But now, the experts of the Southern Divine Region were going to attack the Central Divine Region with Ji Yufei. The great forces of the Southern Divine Region had been hesitant at first, but when they learned that Ji Yufei had defeated Teng Yi and killed Long Kang in one go, they were as excited as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They all wanted to follow Ji Yufei into the Central Divine Region to get a share of the loot. However, there was one person who hadn't sent a single soldier to Heaven Battling City. That person was the Southern Heaven God Emperor, Xian Kuan. As a result, the atmosphere became a little strange. It should be known that Ji Yufei was the ruler of the Southern Divine Region right now. Who would dare disobey his orders? Forget about Ji Yufei, even Ji Yufei's subordinate, the God of Nine Deaths, could send those bastards from the Southern Divine Region rolling over to him with a wave of his hand. Isn't the Southern Heaven God relying on his daughter's friendship with Master? If it wasn't for that, we would have gone there already. Inside the great hall of the City Lord's residence, Ji Yufei's subordinates and the experts of the Southern Divine Region had gathered together. After Wang Xuanji became a God Emperor, he really wanted to challenge the Southern Heaven God Emperor to a fight. In the battle tens of thousands of years ago, Wang Xuanji had lost because he was distracted and could not focus on the battle against the South Heaven God Emperor. Wang Xuanji had always been brooding over that battle. Now that his worries had been resolved, he was at the peak of his life. Naturally, he wanted to challenge the Southern Heaven God Emperor again. However, because Ji Yufei was friends with the Southern Heaven God Emperor's daughter, Xian Shi, he did not dare to act recklessly. After all, the consequences of angering his master, Ji Yufei, were unimaginable. Wang Xuanji could only be secretly depressed. "Brother Xianji, it's been 1,000 years since we last met, but you're still as elegant as ever." At this time, a person came to Wang Xuanji's side. This person had a head of golden hair, big eyes, and was extremely domineering. "So it's Jin Yu from the Golden Lion clan, Brother Jin." Wang Xuanji recognized the newcomer. Jin Yu was from the same generation as him, and had even made his debut earlier than Wang Xuanji. "What? You want to settle the score with Nantian?" Jin Yu looked at Wang Xuanji with a faint smile. "Humph. When Wang Xuanji heard this, his face immediately darkened. Brother Xuanji, now that you've become a martial monarch, why bother arguing with the South Heaven God Emperor? A middle-aged man in a purple robe walked over. He was wearing a purple dragon robe and a golden crown. He had the demeanor of a king. Zhong Wuji of the Southern Divine Region's royal family. Wang Xuanji glanced at the man and said calmly. The Southern Divine Region's royal family was one of the 5 strongest factions in the Southern Divine Region. Zhong Wuji of the Zhong clan. Although he was not the ruler of the Southern Divine Region's royal family, his cultivation had reached the martial monarch realm. Your Zhong clan seems to be very close to the South Heaven God Emperor recently, Wang Xuanji said unpleasantly. Hihi, I don't think it's any of your business who my Zhong clan is close to, Zhong Wuji said with a smile. Humph. Then the matter between me and the South Heaven God Emperor has nothing to do with you, Wang Xuanji said coldly. The atmosphere between the two suddenly became tense. All right, let's end the topic here. Jin Yu of the Golden Lion clan took a step forward and stood between the two. Both of them were martial monarchs. The consequences would be unpredictable if a conflict broke out. That being said, Jin Yu's worry was unnecessary. Even the Dark Knight Emperor and the True Dragon Emperor would not dare to cause trouble here, let alone Wang Xuanji. After all, a single thought from Ji Yufei could take their lives. In Ji Yufei's eyes, their lives weren't that precious. Ji Yufei did not show up, neither did the Dark Knight Emperor or the True Dragon Emperor. Only the 9 Deaths Divine Master walked out from the back of the hall. As soon as the 9 Deaths Divine Master came out, he immediately attracted everyone's attention. The hall immediately fell silent. Everyone kept quiet out of fear. Greetings, Lord 9 Deaths. Everyone in the hall respectfully knelt down before Death Overlord. They were very respectful towards Death Overlord and didn't dare to show any neglect. Hierarch 9 Deaths ignored them. He walked up to the throne and sat down on it. He was a high and mighty existence. The 3 giants of the heavenly world generally would not deal with anything directly. The 9 Deaths Divine Master was the spokesperson of the 3 giants. For countless years, the 9 Deaths Divine Master had been helping the 3 giants deal with everything. Not many people in the heavenly world knew the 3 giants, but almost everyone knew the 9 Deaths Divine Master. You're all ready, right? The 9 Deaths Divine Master said lazily. Lord 9 Deaths Divine Master, everything is ready. Wang Xuanji, who was lying on the ground, said quickly. Then let's go. What are you waiting for? The 9 Deaths Divine Master said. Master hasn't sent an order yet. This, Wang Xuanji said hesitantly. My words are Master's words. Let's go. The 9 Deaths Divine Master waved his hand impatiently. Yes. Wang Xuanji retreated. Soon, the countless armies above Heaven Battling City began to move. However, just as the Heaven Battling City army was about to set out, a terrifying destructive aura descended from the sky. This is, the aura of destruction that descended from the sky spread out in all directions, shocking all the cultivators in the city. Countless cultivators jerked their heads upwards. In the next instant, all of them were so frightened that their souls nearly flew out of their bodies. They saw stars falling from the starry sky. What, even the powerhouses were helpless at this time. Once the countless stars fell to the ground, it would be like the end of the world. Countless living beings would die. Hold up the sky, Ji Yufei's figure appeared in the sky. He roared and raised his right hand. Rumble, as Ji Yufei raised his right hand, it was as if he was holding up the whole world. Even in the face of such an apocalyptic scene, the countless battle soldiers remained calm and collected. They retreated calmly into the distance, not panicking at all. Who's doing it? Jin Yu of the Golden Lion clan rushed out and roared. The stars in the sky would not fall by themselves. Someone must be doing it. At this moment, Ji Yufei made a grabbing motion with his hand and the countless stars that were descending from the sky immediately flew towards his palm. He actually managed to grab all of them in his hand. Picking up stars with one's hand was a great divine power. Seeing this shocking scene, everyone was inexplicably shocked. Master, Wang Xuanji and the others were all surprised to see the person in the sky. Me. At this moment, A sneer came from the sky. The next moment, a vague figure appeared high in the sky. The mysterious figure exuded a powerful pressure that made countless powerhouses kneel. "You're Ji Fei? You do have some skills," the mysterious figure said. "You sneaky guy, do you dare to come out and fight?" Ji Fei did not bother to talk nonsense with these guys. "Kill." The mysterious person did not waste any time and directly attacked. A purple light suddenly appeared and directly tore the void between heaven and earth, illuminating heaven and earth. The terrifying purple light directly bombarded Ji Fei's head with a destructive aura spreading. Everyone was inexplicably shocked. Ji Fei did not dodge and was directly hit by the power that was enough to kill an ultimate god. The next moment, his figure disappeared in the void without a trace. Was he bombarded into dust? The surrounding powerhouses were all stunned when they saw that there was only a huge black hole where Ji Fei originally stood. There was chaotic energy lingering in the black hole. That attack had a terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. It was just a casual attack from the mysterious figure in the sky. Just when everyone thought that Ji Fei was blasted into pieces by the purple light, Ji Fei appeared again and directly rushed out of the black hole. Ha ha! Awesome! Ji Fei's physical body was extremely strong and was not afraid of the chaotic turbulence at all. Again, he soared into the sky and directly rushed toward the mysterious expert in the sky. At that moment, the Dark Knight Emperor, True Dragon Emperor, and the others were watching the battle from afar and did not dare to get too close. "Ji Fei, you're dead meat." At that moment, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Someone was communicating with him on the divine consciousness level. At that moment, Ji Fei had already started fighting with the mysterious figure in the sky. The two extremely strong forces were constantly colliding and constantly cancelling each other out. Who is that person? He can actually fight with Master for so long. Could it be the leader of the three magnates is here? Some people were whispering to each other. The leader of the three magnates, Qian Yu, was definitely the most powerful existence in the entire heavenly divine realm. Is it really him? Everyone was shocked and countless people felt great pressure from the leader of the three magnates. However, everyone was just guessing. No one knew who it was and who had the power to compete with the ruthless Ji Fei. Chapter 4186. The heavenly divine realm was a world where gods were revered. Cultivation of the divine path was popular here. Both the human race and the foreign races cultivated the divine path with the goal of becoming a god. In this world of divine path, the ultimate gods were the most powerful beings. However, some creatures were even more powerful than the ultimate gods. Of course, they were still divine experts. No one in the heavenly divine realm could transcend the divine path. The three magnates of the heavenly divine realm were regarded as heaven-defying divine masters who were even stronger than the ultimate gods. Of course, ordinary people wouldn't know the title of Godly Lord. Only those old-timers of the divine Tao knew what Godly Lord represented. There were only three heaven-defying divine masters in the entire heavenly divine realm. They were the three magnates of the central divine realm, Long Kang, Teng Yi, and their boss, Qian Yu. Nine-side divine master was only a young divine master. At this time, Ji Fei's army was about to enter the central divine realm. However, a mysterious expert suddenly appeared just as the army was about to set out. The mysterious expert was so powerful that even Nine-side divine master was shocked. Ji Fei had no choice but to take action himself because the others weren't a match for this mysterious expert. Do people in the central divine realm like to hide their heads and show their tails? High up in the sky, Ji Fei said to the mysterious expert. "I have never changed my name or surname. I am Qian Yu," the mysterious expert said coldly. "What? That's Qian Yu? The boss of the three magnates?" Someone exclaimed. Ordinary cultivators didn't know who Qian Yu was, but the ancient divine experts in the heavenly divine realm knew how powerful and terrifying he was. Is it really Qian Yu? Who else could it be? He's the only one in the entire heavenly divine realm who's qualified to fight against Ji Fei. Someone said. The news of Qian Yu's arrival quickly spread across the entire southern divine region and the heavenly divine realm. So it's the boss of the three magnates. Very well, it'll save me a lot of trouble if I defeat you, Ji Fei said as he attacked. A misty divine light surged out of his hands. He clenched his right fist as if he was holding a part of the world. Then, he punched at Chen Yu. Rumble, the entire world shook along with Ji Fei's punch, and pitch-black spatial cracks continuously appeared in the void. You want to defeat me? Let's see if you have the ability. Chen Yu coldly spoke as a shocking killing intent gushed forth from his body, causing the weather to change. When Ji Fei punched at him, he also punched at Ji Fei's fist. A ball of blue light surged out from his fist, like a blue sun appearing between heaven and earth. Boom! With a loud bang, the two fists collided in an instant, and the resulting shockwaves spread out. The void within a radius of 1,000 miles directly shattered, turning into a black hole. Everything that this destructive power enveloped was obliterated, leaving nothing behind. Fortunately, Nine Deaths Hierarch saw that the situation was not good, and immediately led the armies away from Heaven Battling City and stationed them far enough away. Otherwise, the armies of the Southern Divine Region would have been finished. In front of super experts like Ji Fei and Chen Yu, no army could withstand a single blow from them. This was the confidence of the three magnates. As long as they were strong enough, they could destroy an entire army with a single punch. The two figures immediately separated. In this exchange, neither of them had gained the upper hand. You can actually block my punch, Ji Fei said with some surprise. Although he hadn't used his eternal power yet, the power of this punch wasn't something that just anyone could withstand. Chen Yu was sent flying thousands of miles away. He was also very surprised. This human seemed to have an unimaginable power in his body that could actually contend with him. Among the three magnates of the heavenly god realm, the strongest was the heaven-defying Divine Master. Even if Long Kang and Teng Yi joined forces, they still wouldn't be a match for Chen Yu. Then you can only blame yourself for defeating Teng Yi and killing Long Kang. With your cultivation, you can definitely become a Divine Master. Chen Yu stared at Ji Fei and said indifferently, "What is a Divine Master?" Ji Fei said disapprovingly, "Submit to me, and I will let you sit in the position that originally belonged to Long Kang." Chen Yu said, "Hehe, what if I want to sit in your position?" Ji Fei suddenly laughed. "Then you can go die." Chen Yu's voice turned gloomy. "There can't be two masters in a world. A battle between us is unavoidable, so let's cut the crap. Let's talk with strength." Ji Fei clenched his fists, and a monstrous battle intent immediately erupted from his body. "Very well, let's fight," Chen Yu said as he took a step forward. In an instant, he traversed thousands of miles and appeared in front of Ji Fei. He then threw a punch at Ji Fei. As Chen Yu threw his punch, it seemed as though all the energy in the world was moved by him. From Ji Fei's point of view, it was as though the entire world was pressing down on him. His entire body was confined, and he could only watch as the other party's fist flew towards him. Just as Chen Yu's fist was about to land on Ji Fei, a ball of divine light suddenly appeared on Ji Fei's chest. That ball of divine light immediately blocked the confining energy that was enveloping Ji Fei. Ji Fei could move now. He reached out with his right hand and grabbed Chen Yu's fist. "What?" Chen Yu was shocked. He immediately exerted force in an attempt to break free from Ji Fei's grip. However, in the next moment, he was already sent flying by Ji Fei. At the same time, Ji Fei's legs were faster than lightning, and they landed on Chen Yu's body. Sounds of collisions and bones breaking rang out. In that instant, even Chen Yu himself did not know how many times he had been kicked by Ji Fei. He felt as though there wasn't a single bone in his body that was intact. Bam! Ji Fei's leg flew up and kicked Chen Yu's head. Chen Yu's head exploded like a watermelon. Everyone who saw this scene was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. Chen Yu was the strongest heaven-defying divine master in the heavenly god realm. How could he be defeated by Ji Fei just like that? Bam! Under Ji Fei's attack, Chen Yu's body exploded and turned into a mist of blood. Chen Yu, the leader of the three big shots of the heavenly god realm, was actually defeated by Ji Fei? Although it couldn't be said that Chen Yu's reputation was undeserved, he was defeated too quickly. Leader. Chapter 4187. Ji Yufei had actually destroyed Chen Yu's divine body. This scene stunned everyone who was watching the battle from afar. Everyone found it hard to believe. One had to know that Chen Yu was one of the 3 strongest powerhouses of the heavenly god realm's central divine region. Boss lost. Teng Yi, who had been watching the battle from afar, was scared out of his wits. If even his boss wasn't a match for Ji Yufei, wouldn't he be sending himself to his death if he were to fight Ji Yufei? Teng Yi turned around and was about to leave. At this moment, countless figures suddenly appeared around Ji Yufei without any warning. In the next instant, countless fists smashed into his body. So Chen Yu wasn't killed by Ji Yufei. The sound of bones shattering rang out. This time, the tables had truly turned. Ji Yufei had just destroyed Chen Yu, but now, all of his bones had been shattered by Chen Yu. Of course, apart from his sternum. Not only was Ji Yufei's sternum not shattered by Chen Yu, it even devoured all of Chen Yu's power. This was because it was the eternal true bone. With Chen Yu's cultivation, it was absolutely impossible for him to shatter Ji Yufei's eternal true bone. At the same time, the figures that filled the sky disappeared. Chen Yu appeared in everyone's line of sight once again. The hazy feeling on his body had disappeared. The strongest divine master in the heavenly god realm was actually a fatty. Moreover, this fatty actually looked somewhat similar to the fatty who was known as the realm master. Haha, I just knew that boss wouldn't die so easily. Teng Yi, who was watching the battle from afar, clenched his fists tightly. His palms were all sweaty. One had to know that the battle between Chen Yu and Ji Yufei would decide everyone's fate. If Chen Yu lost, the heavenly god realm would have a new master. Not all the god emperors of the southern divine region hoped that Ji Yufei would win. If Ji Yufei died, they would be free and their fates would no longer be controlled by others. However, if they knew that once Ji Yufei died, they would also be buried with him, who knew if they would still want Ji Yufei to die? At this moment, Ji Yufei's bones were rapidly recovering. In just a few breaths of time, the bones that were shattered by Chen Yu had completely recovered. What? Could it be that you have the immortal godly body? Chen Yu couldn't help but be shocked when he saw this scene. What is the undying godly body? Ji Yufei said somewhat disdainfully. The so-called immortal divine body was just a kind of heaven-defying physique in the heavenly god realm. It was impossible to achieve true immortality. One should know that even an immortal supreme existence would fall one day, let alone an immortal godly physique. What an arrogant fellow. Chen Yu was enraged because he himself possessed the undying godly physique. Ji Yufei actually dared to look down on his undying godly physique. Kill. Chen Yu roared and pounced towards Ji Yufei once again. You want to fight me in close combat? Are you courting death? Ji Yufei smiled disdainfully. In the next moment, his figure disappeared into the void. What? Chen Yu was taken aback. Then, he was directly trampled down from the sky by a giant foot. This heavenly god realm magnet smashed down towards heaven battling city like a meteorite. Ji Yufei was a cultivator. Chen Yu had definitely made a fatal mistake by fighting Ji Yufei in close combat. One must know that cultivators were best at close combat. Roar. Chen Yu was enraged. Terrifying divine energy erupted from his body. The whole world seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Even the defensive array of heaven battling city started to collapse. Seeing this scene, countless cultivators hiding in heaven battling city were scared out of their wits. Once the defensive array completely collapsed, heaven battling city would be directly wiped off the ground by the destructive force from the sky. Countless cultivators in the city would naturally die as well. This was not what Ji Yufei wanted to see. Just before heaven battling city's city defending array was about to be smashed by Chen Yu, a massive ancient cauldron phantom rushed out from the city lord's mansion of heaven battling city and enveloped the entire city. The terrifying force from the sky was directly blocked by the ancient cauldron shadow. The ancient cauldron's illusory figure was faint and illusory, as if it could dissipate into the void at any time. However, It was this ancient cauldron's illusory figure that blocked the destructive power that descended from the sky. Qian Yu couldn't help but be shocked when he saw this scene. Boom! Qian Yu ruthlessly smashed into the ancient cauldron shadow. In the next moment, he was actually blasted into a cloud of blood mist by the recoil. All the cultivators in the city who witnessed this scene were stunned. There was no doubt that Qian Yu was powerful. It could only be said that Ji Yufei was stronger than Qian Yu. When Ji Yufei stepped on the #1 heaven-defying divine master in the heavenly god world, his power was earth-shattering. The invincible aura he displayed convinced countless people. In the next moment, Qian Yu instantly reformed his divine body. He possessed the immortal divine body. Although he couldn't achieve true immortality, it wouldn't be easy to kill Qian Yu. In order to kill Qian Yu, he had to use extreme methods. Haha, don't waste your energy. I can't be killed. Qian Yu laughed crazily as he soared into the sky and once again appeared in front of Ji Yufei. Can't be killed? Is that true? Ji Yufei looked at Qian Yu and the corner of his mouth curled up. At the same time, a vertical purple mark suddenly appeared on Ji Yufei's forehead as if a peerless divine eye was about to open. Qian Yu couldn't help but be shocked when he sensed the energy fluctuation coming from the vertical mark on Ji Yufei's forehead. This was the eternal true eye that Ji Yufei had cultivated. This was the first time he used the eternal true eye to fight with someone. He didn't know how powerful the eternal true eye was. Qian Yu instinctively felt the danger. How is this possible? Does this guy really have the power to threaten me? Qian Yu was in disbelief. Swish! At this moment, a ray of divine light shot out from the vertical mark on Ji Yufei's forehead. The speed of the divine light was indescribably fast. Qian Yu felt a chill on the left side of his body. He lowered his head and saw that the left side of his body had disappeared. There was no blood flowing out from the wound. The left side of his body seemed to have disappeared into thin air. It was completely obliterated. What? Qian Yu's shock was no small matter. This was the most thorough annihilation. His blood, flesh, tendons, and bones, along with the essence, energy, and spirit that had been fused into his blood, flesh, tendons, and even his life imprints were all annihilated. Even if Qian Yu had the immortal divine body, it was impossible to recover from such a thorough obliteration. How? How is this possible? Qian Yu was truly frightened this time. Chapter 4188. Southern Divine Region, Heaven Battling City, the place where Ji Yufei was temporarily staying. It was also Ji Yufei's main camp in the heavenly god realm. Ji Yufei unified the Southern Divine Region and was preparing to conquer the Central Divine Region. He only had one goal, and that was to obtain the origin energy of the heavenly god realm to increase his own cultivation. Of course, he wouldn't do something like annihilation. He wouldn't directly take away the origin energy and cause a superior world like the heavenly god realm to gradually lose its vitality and die. Even heaven and earth would die at some point. The origin energy of a heaven and earth was the foundation of its existence. Once it lost its origin energy, the heaven and earth would slowly die as well. The billions of living beings that lived in this heaven and earth would be buried along with it. At this moment, Ji Yufei was high up in the sky, fighting against the strongest heaven-defying divine master in the heavenly god realm, Qian Yu. Violent energy spread in all directions, destroying everything in its path. The battle between such powerful existences directly caused a great calamity. The land within a radius of hundreds of thousands of kilometers was turned into ruins, and all the mountains were razed to the ground. Even the void was hit by black holes. Primal chaos energy seeped out of those black holes, and the void was filled with pitch-black spatial cracks. Everyone had already retreated far enough to watch the battle, not daring to get close. If they were caught in the shockwaves of such a world-destroying battle, even a divine venerable would die, let alone a god-emperor. Even 9 deaths god didn't dare to watch the battle from a close distance and retreated far away. At this moment, everyone watching the battle was shocked by the divine ability Ji Yufei had displayed. What kind of divine ability is that? 9 deaths god stared at Ji Yufei in the distance, his eyes shining brightly. Just now, a beam of divine light had shot out of Ji Yufei's glabella and hit the left half of Qian Yu's body. As a result, the left half of Qian Yu's body, who was known to have an immortal divine body, disappeared, and it couldn't be restored. How is this possible? The other divine master of the heavenly god realm, Teng Yi, was stunned by this scene. Qian Yu was the strongest big shot in the heavenly god realm. Even if Long Kang and Teng Yi joined hands, they wouldn't be his opponent. But now, he had met his match. At this moment, the purple scar between Ji Yufei's eyebrows vibrated, as if it could open up at any time. Qian Yu was scared out of his wits. He immediately soared into the sky and tried to escape. Just now, the divine light that had shot out from between Ji Yufei's eyebrows had directly swept across the left side of his body, directly obliterating the left side of his body. If he was hit by the divine light that shot out from between Ji Yufei's eyebrows, he would really die. Qian Yu was shocked to the extreme. This fella named Ji Yufei actually cultivated a supreme sacred art that could obliterate the undying god physique. This way, Qian Yu would lose his greatest support. Do you think you can escape? Ji Yufei stared at the escaping Qian Yu. In the next instant, a beam of divine light shot out from his glabella and swept towards the escaping Qian Yu. The eternal true eye possessed heaven-defying power. A beam of divine light flashed across the void. Then, Qian Yu's entire body disappeared, leaving only his head behind. Roar! Qian Yu desperately used his divine power to break through the void in an attempt to escape into the primal chaos. At this moment, the purple scar between Ji Yufei's eyebrows lit up again. No, Qian Yu directly rushed into the primal chaos. However, a beam of purple light flashed by and Qian Yu's head was instantly swept away. In the next instant, the head turned into a skull. It wasn't completely obliterated. Within the skull, there was a ball of divine light that was flickering. Ji Yufei was a little surprised. Although the eternal true eye that he had cultivated wasn't powerful enough to destroy everything, it wasn't something that just anyone could block. I see. Ji Yufei took a closer look and saw a ball of hazy divine light spreading from within Qian Yu's head, protecting his skull. It was this seemingly weak divine light that had actually blocked the attack of his eternal true eye. After all, the eternal true eye used the power of eternity. That is, when Ji Yufei sensed a familiar aura, he suddenly thought of the immortal heart that he had obtained in the Dark Night continent. Let's see what that is. Ji Yufei moved. He took a step forward and instantly rushed into the primal chaos. He broke through the layers of primal chaos and chased after the escaping skull. What? The skull was extremely shocked. It had never expected that Ji Yufei would be strong enough to walk in the primal chaos. Qian Yu still wanted to resist, but Ji Yufei reached out with his right hand and grabbed his skull. A powerful force emanated from his hand and suppressed the skull. Spare me. At this moment, the #1 heaven-defying divine master of the heavenly god realm had no choice but to beg for mercy from Ji Yufei in order to save his life. He did not want to be killed by Ji Yufei just like that. Ji Yufei sneered and did not say anything. His gaze pierced through the skull and looked inside. There was actually a pearl in Qian Yu's skull. It was a bone pearl the size of a thumb and it was emitting a hazy divine light. Could it be something that belongs to the same person? Ji Yufei muttered to himself. At this moment, Qian Yu was extremely frightened. He was afraid that Ji Yufei would kill him. Where did you get that bone bead in your head? Ji Yufei thought for a moment before asking. I got it from an ancient site in the central divine territory, Qian Yu quickly answered. It seems like you don't know either. Ji Yufei was a little disappointed. In the next moment, he exerted some force with his right hand and extracted the bone pearl from Qian Yu's skull. Master, don't kill me. I'm willing to be your slave. Qian Yu did not care about anything in order to survive. Spare you? Ji Yufei thought to himself. I'm not familiar with the central divine territory and I'm missing a guide. Then I'll spare your life. After saying that, Ji Yufei directly planted a restrictive technique on Qian Yu's soul. If Qian Yu showed any signs of betrayal, Ji Yufei would only need a single thought to destroy his body and soul, causing him to perish. Thank you for sparing my life, Master. Thank you for sparing my life. Chen Yu was both surprised and happy. As long as he was alive, everything was possible. When Ji Yufei walked out of the shattered void with a skull in his hand, the whole place went silent and everyone's jaws dropped. Chen Yu lost. The heaven-defying divine master Chen Yu lost. Everyone found it hard to believe, but they had no choice but to believe it because they had seen it with their own eyes. The news of Ji Yufei defeating Chen Yu spread across the entire heavenly divine realm and shocked the whole world. In particular, the major forces in the central divine territory were terrified. They were afraid that Ji Yufei would kill his way into the central divine territory. Chapter 4189. What? Our Lord God was defeated by that Ji Yufei? When the news reached the central divine area, the entire place boiled up. Everybody couldn't believe it. Chen Yu was the strongest god lord. However, when Chen Yu sent a message back asking all the forces in the central celestial realm to surrender, the experts of the major forces in the central celestial realm knew that Chen Yu had really been defeated by Ji Yufei. As a result, quite a big riot broke out in the central divine realm. On the third day after Ji Yufei defeated Chen Yu, he sent someone to deal with the central divine area's affairs. Chen Yu was extremely gloomy when he returned to the central divine area. When he had left the central divine area, he was still the supreme number one expert in the heavenly god realm. However, when he returned, he had become someone else's slave. I have traveled the world and defeated all the invincible experts in the heavenly god realm. I didn't expect that I would be defeated by that guy. Chen Yu was resentful. Kill them if they don't surrender. Chen Yu directly sent out the message. What? All the forces in the central divine area were watching. Shortly, the place where Chen Yu was staying was packed with people. Everybody wanted to live. However, some would rather die than surrender. With regards to these people, Chen Yu's method was simple. He would kill them all. With Chen Yu leading the way, Ji Yufei didn't need to spend much effort to get to the central divine area. After Chen Yu had reconstructed his body, his cultivation base seemed to have become stronger. The heavenly god realm's origin of heaven and earth was at the incipient god mountain. This time, Ji Yufei only brought the Dark Knight Emperor, Death God 9, and the True Dragon Emperor to the central divine area. Besides Death God 9, the other two had never been to the incipient god mountain before. They were very curious about the sacred mountain of the heavenly god realm. When Chen Yu brought Ji Yufei's group to the foot of the incipient god mountain, besides Ji Yufei and Death God 9, the Dark Knight Emperor and the True Dragon Emperor were stunned by the sacred mountain. The mountain was so tall that it reached the clouds. They couldn't see the peak. The heaven and earth spirit energy around the sacred mountain was so thick that it couldn't be dispersed. Cultivating in this divine land would yield twice the result with half the effort. Chen Yu led everyone up the mountain and very quickly, they reached the peak. At the peak of the mountain, there was a large hall. Chen Yu walked directly towards the main hall and brought everyone to the front of the main hall. Master, please follow me. Chen Yu pushed open the door and walked in. There was nothing in the main hall except for a huge formation diagram on the ground. This formation diagram seemed to have been created by nature. Each rune contained a powerful aura. Teleportation array? At a glance, Ji Yufei could tell that the array on the ground was a teleportation array. However, this teleportation array seemed to have not been activated for a long time. Master, please, Chen Yu said as he walked into the teleportation array. Ji Yufei glanced at Chen Yu before following suit. The Dark Knight Emperor and the others wanted to go forward, but they were stopped by Ji Yufei, who asked them to wait here. Chen Yu activated the teleportation array. The entire array lit up and in the next instant, a ball of divine light appeared as the two of them disappeared from the Great Hall. Just as Ji Yufei appeared in the void, something suddenly attacked him. The surroundings were dark and the mysterious living being was hidden in the darkness. Chen Yu was nowhere to be seen. Brat, are you here to die? At this moment, an eerie voice rang out in the darkness. Who are you? Ji Yufei said coldly. Who am I? I've lived for too long, I don't even know who I am anymore. That voice rang out. Where's Chen Yu? Ji Yufei asked. Chen Yu. That little brat brought you here? You're thinking of stealing the origin energy of heaven and earth. The voice of the person in the dark turned cold. So what if I am? Ji Fei said indifferently. At this moment, a vertical mark appeared on his forehead. The origin energy of heaven and earth is mine. Go to hell. The person in the dark roared. In the next moment, a black shadow appeared behind Ji Fei without a sound. The black shadow stretched out its right hand and grabbed towards Ji Fei. The 5 fingers of the person emitted a dark light that pierced through the void like a sharp sword. However, in the next moment, Ji Fei's figure disappeared in the void. The mysterious person's attack missed. At the same time, Ji Fei's fist had already arrived in front of the mysterious man. Although the fist energy was contained within it, it did not explode. However, if this fist hit the target, the power contained within the fist would instantly explode. The tyrannical power was enough to blast anyone apart. What? The mysterious person was obviously shocked. He never thought that Ji Fei would be so powerful. The mysterious person floated away like a ghost. Ji Fei's punch also landed in the void and did not hit anything. Qian Yu, that brat. At this moment, Ji Fei finally knew what Qian Yu was planning. Was he trying to get someone else to do his dirty work? However, he could already feel the existence of the origin energy of heaven and earth. The origin energy of heaven and earth was definitely nearby. As long as he defeated this guy, he would be able to obtain the origin energy of heaven and earth. Rumble, Ji Fei was ruthless. A strong wave of energy immediately spread from his body. The surrounding void rippled like transparent water. Go to hell. Ji Fei's hands moved in front of him. Rays of divine light appeared in the void and directly turned into divine swords that pierced towards the mysterious person. Sword principle? The person seemed a little surprised. He suddenly opened his mouth and inhaled. The countless sword lights that pierced towards him were all swallowed by him. Ji Fei's heart moved. This guy actually dared to swallow his sword lights. It was really despicable. After the sword lights were swallowed by this guy, he could not sense them anymore. Swoosh. Ji Fei did not waste any time and directly punched. His fist moved quickly and rubbed against the air, creating a piercing sound. The mysterious person immediately retreated. He was not willing to fight with Ji Fei because he could already see that Ji Fei had a strong divine body and strength. Ji Fei was very disdainful. These guys were the most annoying. There was no other way. He had to end this quickly. As Ji Fei said this, he directly used the eternal real eye. In the next moment, a ray of divine light rushed out from between his eyebrows and turned into a divine sword that slashed towards the mysterious person. The sword shadow flashed in the void and one of the mysterious person's arms fell off. Roar. The mysterious man roared into the sky. His broken arm turned into ashes, and in the next moment, a new arm grew out of his body. In just a few seconds, the mysterious person's broken arm was completely restored. Go to hell. Chapter 4190. Ji Fei was brought to the origin of heaven and earth by Qian Yu. It was a dusky void, but the heaven and earth spiritual energy was abundant. The concentration of heaven and earth spiritual energy was higher than anywhere else in the heavenly God world. Cultivating in such a place would naturally yield twice the result with half the effort. Even if a pig was thrown into this place, it would become a god after a long time, let alone those powerful creatures. However, not everyone could enter this place, because this was the most central place of the heavenly God realm. The entire heavenly God realm was gradually formed with this place as the starting point. Here, the origin of heaven and earth spiritual energy was condensed. This origin of heaven and earth spiritual energy was exactly what Ji Fei needed. However, after entering this place, Qian Yu disappeared. Then, a mysterious person suddenly attacked Ji Fei. Preposterous. Ji Fei came to his senses in an instant and couldn't help but be furious. Qian Yu actually dared to play this trick, trying to trick him. This was too despicable. This was killing with a borrowed knife. Qian Yu wanted to use the mysterious person in the ancestral earth vein to kill Ji Fei. Swoosh. A ray of purple light suddenly appeared in the dusky heaven and earth. As the purple light flashed, a figure fell out of the void. You, the mysterious person, was indescribably shocked. This fella's divine ability was so powerful. No wonder Chen Yu and the other two weren't his match. On the mysterious person's shoulder, there was a wound so deep that the bone could be seen. There was blood flowing out of the wound. The mysterious person circulated his mysterious technique to heal his wound. However, he soon realized that there was a force attached to the wound, making it hard for it to heal. At this time, a figure walked out of the dusky void. "Didn't you want to kill me? I'll stand here and let you kill me." Ji Yufei came to the opposite side of the mysterious person and looked at him indifferently. What an arrogant fella. The mysterious person was shocked and angry. At this time, his body released a divine fire, instantly illuminating the dusky void. The wound on his shoulder was slowly healing. The force attached to the mysterious person's wound was gradually being erased. Seeing this, Ji Yufei's heart skipped a beat. This guy was quite capable. One must know that the power of the eternal gods wasn't so easily extinguished. However, Ji Yufei quickly understood. He could feel that this mysterious person had actually become one with the surrounding world, and could draw upon the surrounding energy at will. This was the power of origin of heaven and earth. In fact, the most precious part of the power of heaven and earth was the primordial violet qi. It was the ancestral qi of heaven and earth that evolved all things in the world. What Ji Yufei wanted was the primordial violet qi. The primordial violet qi was a supreme treasure that countless powerhouses yearned for. If they could refine the primordial violet qi, they could become the master of a world. However, it seemed like no one in the heavenly god realm could refine the primordial violet aura. The mysterious man had been guarding the ancestral earth vein for countless years, but it seemed like he could only borrow the primordial energy for a short period of time, and he couldn't do it for long. It was unknown how long it would take for him to truly refine the primordial violet qi. Boom! In the next moment, an even stronger force erupted from the mysterious man's body. His entire body seemed to be on fire, and there were vague divine runes within the divine fire. "Little guy, I was just warming up," the mysterious man said coldly. "Is that so?" Ji Yufei smiled and said, "I didn't even use 10% of my strength just now. I think I'll probably use 20% of my strength to deal with you." "What did you say?" The mysterious man was really angry. This guy actually dared to look down on him. This was really too despicable. One should know that even Chen Yu, Long Kang, and Teng Yi had to consider themselves as juniors in front of him. In front of him, they were just three little guys. "All right, show me what you've got," Ji Yufei said impatiently. "Go to hell." The mysterious man was enraged. In the next moment, he turned into a divine beast and pounced towards Ji Yufei. A violent force erupted from the divine beast, causing the surrounding space to distort from the heat. It was a divine beast that looked like a Chileen, a four-legged snake, and a dragon. Even though Ji Yufei was experienced and knowledgeable, he had never seen such a fire-type divine beast. "Phut, is this a divine beast that doesn't look like one?" Ji Yufei said disdainfully. It looked like one and didn't look like one at the same time. He directly gave this divine beast a name, None. As Ji Yufei spoke, he separated his hands and a ball of divine light emerged from his body. The divine beast directly collided with the divine light around Ji Yufei's body. It was as if it had collided with an immortal divine mountain, and the entire space exploded. Ji Yufei did not move at all. He was like an immortal divine mountain that had existed since the beginning of time. The divine beast that didn't look like one was in a miserable state. It was directly sent flying and its head was bleeding. What? The three odd divine beasts were shocked to the extreme. At this moment, Ji Yufei took a step forward and stepped on the divine beast's head, causing it to fall from the sky. Boom! The divine beast that fell from the sky directly smashed into the ground, creating a huge pit. This wasn't an ordinary place. This was the place where the Earth Ancestors' vein was located. Every piece of rock here was extremely hard. Even if one used a divine weapon, it would be very difficult to split the rocks here. However, the force of the divine beast's smash actually created a huge pit in the incomparably hard ground. This was absolutely shocking. Your skin is thick and you can even use primordial energy for your own use. You are much stronger than Qian Yu. Ji Yufei looked down at the odd divine beast on the ground with his hands behind his back. You, the divine beast, almost died from anger. Roar. The divine beast roared and opened its mouth to spit out a mouthful of divine fire at Ji Yufei. Boom. An endless amount of fire exploded and instantly enveloped Ji Yufei. The monstrous divine fire directly engulfed Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei didn't dodge at all. He still stood with his hands behind his back. However, a ball of divine light emerged from his chest and enveloped his entire body. This was a protective divine light formed from the power of eternity. No matter how powerful the divine flames of the three odd beasts were, burning the void to the point of annihilation, they could not break through his defenses. Haha, you're still not dead yet. The odd divine beast laughed crazily. This divine flame was the true life flame that he had cultivated for countless years. A single breath of true fire could destroy the heavens and the earth. However, very quickly, the divine beast couldn't laugh anymore. How is this possible? The divine beast stared at Ji Yufei, who was standing with his hands behind his back. It was extremely shocked. How is this possible? My fire actually. The divine beast was dumbfounded. I don't care about you at all. Since I'm in a good mood, you'd better kneel down and beg for mercy, Ji Yufei said with a faint smile. At this moment, the divine beast was really panicking. However, he would rather die than kneel and beg for mercy as the ruler of a realm. If you don't beg for mercy, then die, Ji Yufei said and was about to attack. Wait. The odd divine beast jumped up from the ground and transformed into a human. What's wrong? Ji Yufei's hand stopped in the air. Master, my master, please spare my life. The divine beast knelt at Ji Yufei's feet. Ji Yufei was a little surprised to see this. This guy actually admitted defeat just like that. Good, very good. As Ji Yufei spoke, he pointed a finger and a ray of divine light rushed into the divine beast's body. What's that? The divine beast was shocked. He was just pretending to admit defeat. He didn't really want to submit to Ji Yufei, nor did he really want to serve Ji Yufei as his master. This was just a stopgap measure. That's a forbidden technique. As long as you obediently work for me, everything will be fine. If you dare to betray me, I can destroy your body and soul with just a thought, Ji Yufei said indifferently. However, Ji Yufei's words were like a bolt from the blue to the divine beast's ears. He collapsed to the ground. What, this? The divine beast's intestines turned green with regret. All right, bring me to the source of heaven and earth, Ji Yufei said indifferently. Yes, master. Although the divine beast was extremely unwilling, he didn't dare to joke around with his life. He could only endure for the time being and wait until he figured out what was going on. Determining the life and death of a person with a thought. Was there really such a divine ability in this world? The divine beast regained his senses and carefully brought Ji Yufei to the depths of the earth ancestral vein. The underground space was huge and spacious. It was filled with endless spiritual energy of heaven and earth. If he could refine all of the spiritual energy here, he would become the strongest existence in the heavenly god realm. However, these three odd beasts had been guarding the earth ancestral vein for countless years, yet they could only draw a trace of primordial energy for their own use. This trace of primordial energy was enough to defeat an incomparably powerful existence like Qian Yu and become the true #1 expert in the heavenly god realm. However, Ji Yufei cultivated the eternal energy, which was even more powerful than primordial energy. Very soon, Ji Yufei and the others arrived in front of a giant pearl. The pearl was floating in the void and there were actually iron chains locking it tightly. There was actually a dragon sealed inside the pearl. It was a purple dragon. This is the source of the heavenly god realm? Ji Yufei looked at the pearl in front of him. He didn't show any signs of surprise and his face was still calm. The divine beast that had been paying attention to Ji Yufei was extremely shocked to see Ji Yufei's calmness in front of the pearl. Could this fella be some kind of super antique? At this moment, Ji Yufei extended his right hand and made a grabbing motion at the divine orb of origin in front of him. The purple dragon within the orb suddenly charged out and rapidly shrank before landing on his hand. What? The divine beast was stunned. It had waited here for countless years just to obtain the purple dragon in the pearl. It didn't expect Jiu Fei to just wave his hand and the purple dragon was already in his hand. Chapter 4191. Deep inside the Earth Ancestor vein in the heavenly god realm, Jiu Fei waved his hand. A purple dragon that had been imprisoned in the heaven and earth origin divine bead flew out. As soon as the purple dragon flew out, the entire Earth Ancestor vein was filled with a terrifying pressure as if the supreme ancestor dragon had arrived. Rumble. In the outside world, the towering incipient god mountain suddenly shook violently. The Dark Knight Emperor, Death God, and True Dragon Emperor, who were waiting at the peak of incipient god mountain, were all shocked. They could feel a terrifying aura coming from the foot of incipient god mountain, which made them shudder. That is, 9 Deaths God seemed to have thought of something, and his expression immediately turned ugly. What happened? The Dark Knight Emperor asked Death Supremacy. How would I know? Death God said indifferently. He vaguely knew what had happened. Ha ha ha. Right at this moment, a loud laugh came. A figure walked out of the deep starry sky and arrived above the peak of incipient God Mountain, looking down at the 3 experts. God Lord Teng Yi. 9 Death's divinity was shocked when he saw that person. Little 9, you did a good job. It was God Lord Teng Yi, one of the 3 giants of the heavenly god realm. As a heaven-defying godlord, although Teng Yi was not a match for Jiu Fei, he could almost sweep the entire heavenly god realm. This, Death God's face changed dramatically. Even the Dark Knight Emperor and True Dragon Emperor were very nervous. It should be known that Teng Yi was a giant in the heavenly god realm. He was almost invincible. Back then, the Dark Knight Emperor had been defeated by Teng Yi. Now, these 2 enemies were very jealous when they met again. Boom. The next moment, a terrifying dark power rushed out of the Dark Knight Emperor's body, and the whole world immediately became dark. The Dark Knight Emperor seemed to have turned into a black hole, swallowing the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth. The heaven and earth spirit chi here was much thicker than in other places in the heavenly god realm. Every breath was taken into the body, and then the impurities were expelled. What's wrong, Dark Knight? Have you forgotten the lesson you received back then? Teng Yi coldly stared at the Dark Knight Emperor as he spoke in disdain. In the battle back then, he did not use his full strength to chase the Dark Knight Emperor away. Back then, he did have the ability to kill the Dark Knight Emperor. However, after hesitating for a moment, the Dark Knight Emperor managed to escape. Of course, whether he killed the Dark Knight Emperor or not, in his opinion, was a trivial matter. That palm strike from back then is still fresh in my mind. Today, I will settle the score with you. The Dark Knight Emperor stared at the figure in the sky and said coldly. This time, you won't be as lucky as before. Teng Yi stood with his hands behind his back and said calmly. He was high and mighty, looking down at the Dark Knight Emperor like he was looking at an ant. Boom. The Dark Knight Emperor's body shook, and an even more powerful dark force immediately erupted from his body. A hideous shadow of a dark mythological beast emerged from his body, roaring at soaring wings in the sky. Back then, he had not activated the supreme bloodline in his body, so the Dark Knight Emperor was very unwilling to accept his defeat. Now that the bloodline of a peerless divine beast in his body had awakened, he would even dare to fight Teng Yi, a heaven-defying divine master of the heavenly divine realm. Did this guy eat a heavenly beast bile? At this moment, Death Hierarch couldn't help but be dumbfounded. It should be known that even he did not dare to say such words in front of Divine Master Teng Yi. Because that would be courting death. You are a descendant of a dark mythological beast. Teng Yi couldn't help but be surprised when he saw the shadow of a beast emerging from the Dark Knight Emperor's body. A dark mythological beast was a legendary supreme beast. The dark mythological beasts were already extinct. There were no dark mythological beasts in the heavenly divine realm. Even the descendants of the dark mythological beasts were all killed. Who would have thought that a descendant of the dark mythological beast would appear today? So what if I am? The Dark Knight Emperor stared at Teng Yi in the sky with a gloomy face. A descendant of a dark mythological beast, Death Hierarch was also dumbfounded. The dark mythological beast was a tyrant in the antiquity time. It even wanted to attack the central divine area and become the master of the heavenly divine realm. However, in the end, it aroused public anger and became the public enemy. In the end, it was killed by the three magnates. Even its descendants were killed by the three magnates. It wasn't without reason that the Dark Knight Emperor attacked the heavenly divine realm and slaughtered everyone. It was a great enmity. Only then did the true Dragon Emperor know that the Dark Knight Emperor was a descendant of the dark mythological beast. A descendant of the dark mythological beast, everyone has the right to kill you. Kill. Teng Yi roared angrily. He extended his right hand and grabbed at the Dark Knight Emperor on the mountain. A vortex appeared on his palm. A powerful devouring power gushed out from the vortex as if it wanted to devour the entire incipient God Mountain. Roar. The Dark Knight Emperor roared angrily. The next moment, the shadow of a beast rushed out of his body and directly collided with the big hand that was grabbing at him. His roar shook the entire world. The entire void shook hard. Many pitch-black space cracks extended far away. 9 Death's Divine Lord and True Dragon Emperor released a protective divine light that blocked the cracks in the space. With their cultivation base, of course, they weren't afraid of the space cracks. However, if it were an ordinary Emperor God, they wouldn't be so calm. Boom! The shadow of the beast and the giant hand collided. The shadow of the beast and the giant hand dissipated at the same time, turning into 2 shocking forces. These 2 forces destroyed each other, forming a destructive storm that swept out in all directions. This, True Dragon Emperor and Death Hierarch couldn't help but be moved. They directly soared up into the sky and retreated to the distant sky. The incipient God Mountain shook again. The peak of the mountain cracked and countless rocks were blown away. At this moment, the incipient God Mountain was in a mess. Countless God Path experts cultivating on the mountain were alarmed. They all rushed out. Even the old fellows who were cultivating in seclusion jumped out. They didn't want to stay in seclusion anymore. What happened? Why did the ancestral vein move all of a sudden? An antique deity realm powerhouse exclaimed in horror. What? The ancestral vein is moving? Someone screamed in fear. The ancestral vein's movement was terrible. The last time it had happened was 8,000 years ago. At that time, the ancestral vein had flipped over and almost overturned the incipient God Mountain. Many people had died. To the old antiques cultivating on the incipient God Mountain, 8,000 years was just a blink of an eye. It's only been 8,000 years and the ancestral vein is moving again. Some old antiques were restless. The movement of the ancestral vein was an earth-shaking event. Chapter 4192. The strange movement of the ancestral vein shocked everyone. Not only the incipient God Mountain was shaking, but the other branches of the ancestral vein were also shaking. The entire central celestial area was shaking. Countless creatures were terrified. All the forces in the central celestial area were panicking. The central celestial area was like the end of the world. At this time, Ji Fei took away the Hongmeng purple aura from the divine pearl of heaven and earth origin. How could he take away the ancestral qi so easily? The 3 odd divine beasts who were watching from the side were immediately dumbfounded. This was too much of a bully. It had guarded this place for countless years. What was the purpose of it? Wasn't it to get a wisp of ancestral qi from the divine pearl of heaven and earth origin? The thing it had wanted for its entire life was easily obtained by someone else. It was so annoying. At this time, Ji Fei opened his mouth and inhaled. The purple dragon in his hand flew into his mouth and was swallowed. When the 3 odd-looking godly beasts saw this scene, they were so shocked that their eyeballs almost fell out. He swallowed it in one gulp. This was the first time the divine beast had seen someone so crazy that he swallowed a wisp of ancestral qi. This was the ancestral qi of heaven and earth. One wisp could crush a mountain range. Even the divine beast wouldn't dare to do this. This was simply courting death. His body would explode, and even his spirit would be destroyed. While the divine beast was waiting to see Ji Fei's body explode, Ji Fei suddenly licked his lips. It doesn't taste good. Ji Fei said. What? Hearing this, the odd divine beast staggered and almost fell. At this time, the Hongmeng purple aura was refined by Ji Fei and integrated into his blood vessels and bones. Most of the Hongmeng purple aura was absorbed by the eternal real bone in his chest. The eternal true bone transformed the primordial purple haze into eternal essence qi, using the power of eternity to temper his flesh, blood, tendons, and bones. Ji Fei could feel that his cultivation seemed to have improved, and his martial body had also become slightly stronger. It's so hard to recover my cultivation, Ji Fei sighed. Recover my cultivation? The odd divine beast couldn't help but think when it heard this. Could it be that this isn't this fellow's true cultivation? All right, let's go. Ji Fei looked at the heaven and earth origin divine beads and said. He had no interest in the divine pearls of heaven and earth origin, because the moment he touched them, the heavenly divine realm would be finished. Ji Fei could not do something like exterminating an entire world. Of course, if he refined the heavenly origin divine pearl, his cultivation would definitely recover a little. As long as the divine orb of heaven and earth was not taken away, the divine orb of heaven and earth would condense the primordial violet aura again after some time. Ji Fei turned around and left. The three odd divine beasts hurriedly followed. This fellow rejoiced inwardly. From the point of view of this odd divine beast, the most precious thing in the heavenly god realm was the divine pearl of origin of heaven and earth. It was an item that could produce the ancestral qi of heaven and earth. This fellow had only taken the ancestral qi of the world, and had not taken the divine pearl of world origin. Hehe, did this guy get kicked in the head by a donkey? Are you stupid? The three odd divine beasts truly could not understand. While Ji Fei was taking away the primordial violet aura, the outside world was in chaos. Boom! Bam! At the peak of incipient God Mountain, two figures were rapidly moving in the sky, violent energy wreaking havoc in the world. The Dark Knight Emperor and God Lord Soaring Wing were locked in a fierce battle. The entire ancestral land was quaking. If not for the supreme array protecting it, even incipient God Mountain would have been destroyed by these two, and the ancestral vein would have been affected. This Dark Knight Emperor has been hiding his strength. God Nine Deaths couldn't help but be surprised by this sight. The Dark Knight Emperor was too good at pretending. This fellow. The true Dragon Emperor was also stunned by this sight. Kill. The Dark Knight Emperor roared again and again. The hatred of the destruction of his race was absolutely irreconcilable. He attacked with all his might, wanting to kill God Lord Soaring Wing. However, God Lord Soaring Wing was no weakling. Although he was not a match for Ji Fei, he could still sweep through the world. Destruction Fist. God Lord Soaring Wing punched, causing the entire world to tremble beneath his fist. Dreadful destructive energy erupted from God Lord Soaring Wing's fist, shattering the surrounding space. Heaven Sundering Slash. The Dark Knight Emperor roared, his right hand slashing at the incoming fist. A dazzling divine light shot out of his hand and slashed at God Lord Soaring Wing's fist. Bang! With a massive explosion, the two figures were separated. A massive spatial fissure appeared between the two. Good, very good. Soaring Wing's figure appeared in the air. He lowered his head and saw that there was a bloody wound on his fist. The Dark Knight Emperor's slash had actually cut through Soaring Wing's flesh and injured him. Although it was just a small wound, the mighty god Soaring Wing, one of the three titans of the celestial god world, had actually been injured. Preposterous. Soaring Wing was enraged, truly enraged. Ha ha. The sight of Soaring Wing's rage was very satisfying for the Dark Knight Emperor. But this was far from enough. Since the three titans had destroyed the Darkness God Beast race, the Dark Knight Emperor would destroy the three titans and their race as well. Kill. Soaring Wing went mad with rage, and a moment later, he transformed into a strange beast. A divine eye appeared on the beast's forehead and then opened. Swish. A beam of destruction divine light shot out of Soaring Wing's divine eye and pierced toward the Dark Knight Emperor. But a moment later, the space around the Dark Knight Emperor collapsed into primal chaos, and the beam of primal chaos divine light shot into the primal chaos. What? Soaring Wing was stunned by this sight. Darkness World. The Dark Knight Emperor roared as he used his trump card. Darkness energy surged out of the Dark Knight Emperor's body and instantly engulfed the world. The vast power of darkness swallowed Teng Yi in an instant. It's just a petty trick. God Lord Soaring Wing coldly sneered. A ball of divine light emerged from his body and protected him, blocking off the tenebrous energy surging toward him. Is that so? The Dark Knight Emperor's voice resounded, and then countless divine spears formed by divine light shot toward Soaring Wing. Break for me. God Lord Soaring Wing bellowed. An extremely berserk power surged out of his body in an attempt to break the Dark Knight Emperor's sealing power. But the Dark Knight Emperor's darkness domain was extremely powerful, and not just anyone could break it. The terrifying energy only caused the entire domain to tremble. Chapter 4193. The heaven-shaking battle between God Lord Soaring Wing and the Dark Knight Emperor shook the world. Countless experts of the 4 divine realms heard the news and rushed to the central divine realm like they had been injected with stimulants. This was a battle between God Lords. It had been many years since such a battle had occurred. In the cultivation history of the heavenly God realm, a great battle between divine masters had only broken out during the darkest period of the heavenly God realm. That battle had nearly destroyed the heavenly God realm. The original heavenly God realm was not like this. Before the Dark Ages, the heavenly God realm was an incomparably huge continent. During the later stages of the Dark Ages, a great battle between divine masters broke out, and the heavenly God continent was split into 5 pieces. This was the origin of the 5 great divine regions of the heavenly God realm. A battle between divine masters could destroy the heavens and the earth. A high-class world like the heavenly God realm could not withstand a battle of this level. After that battle, the heavenly axiom of the heavenly God realm was damaged and the power of the heaven and earth law became weaker. As a result, it became more difficult for the cultivators of the heavenly God realm to become an ultimate god. Not to mention an ultimate god, even an emperor god could not become an emperor god since the Dark Ages. Wang Xuanji was the first person to become a god emperor in tens of thousands of years. The more difficult it was to cultivate, the more transcendent the Tao fruit would be, and the stronger one's combat strength would be. This was the reason why Wang Xuanji was able to compete with veteran god emperors as soon as he became a god emperor. Rumble, at this moment, the Dark Knight Emperor circulated his tenebrous domain with all his might, wanting to obliterate the trapped divine lord Soaring Wing. He had a great enmity with the 3 big shots of the heavenly god realm. He couldn't wait to tear the 3 big shots into 1,000 pieces. However, Teng Yi was still one of the 3 heavyweights, the publicly acknowledged divine master of the heavenly God realm. It would not be easy for the Dark Knight Emperor to kill divine master Teng Yi. Open! God Lord Soaring Wing roared angrily. He spread his hands apart, and a powerful surge of divine Tao energy surged out of his body in an attempt to forcibly break open the domain of darkness. However, the Dark Knight Emperor's dark realm only shook a little. God Lord Soaring Wing's divine light was only able to create a radius of several dozen feet around him. What? God Lord Soaring Wing was rather moved. That kid from back then had actually grown to this level? He could actually contend against me? How was this possible? Back then, if it wasn't for Teng Yi's carelessness, the Dark Knight Emperor would have died in his hands. Back then, it was as easy as flipping his hand for Teng Yi to kill the Dark Knight Emperor. He did not take the so-called number 1 powerhouse of the Dark Knight continent seriously at all. The number 1 expert of the Dark Knight continent was nothing more than a joke in God Lord Soaring Wing's eyes. But now, this scoundrel was actually able to fight against him. This left God Lord Soaring Wing stunned. Ha, show me what you've got. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. In the darkness, the Emperor of the Dark Knight's arrogant laughter could be heard. Who do you think you are? You want to kill me? You don't have that ability yet. Teng Yi bellowed. Whether I have the ability or not, you will soon find out. The Dark Knight Emperor sneered. In the next moment, a dazzling divine light appeared in the absolute darkness of the void. The divine light tore through the dark void and pierced towards Teng Yi. This was a divine ability cultivated by the Dark Knight Emperor, a supreme divine light condensed from absolute darkness. Each of these beams could easily pierce through the divine body of a divine sovereign. These divine lights pierced through Teng Yi's protective divine light. Teng Yi was in the Dark Knight Emperor's domain of darkness, so he had nowhere to hide. Some divine lights struck his body. Roar! God Lord Soaring Wing's body trembled as bloody light appeared on his body. Although these divine lights had not pierced through his divine body, they had still managed to injure him. He was madly enraged. God Lord Soaring Wing's body trembled as he revealed his true form. This was a strange beast with the upper body of a man and the lower body of a snake. This strange beast even had a vertical eye on its forehead. Open for me! God Lord Soaring Wing's god eye suddenly opened, and a terrifying beam of destructive divine light shot out of it, piercing through the dark void. What? The Dark Knight Emperor's cry of alarm came from the dark void. At this moment, God Lord Soaring Wing laughed and transformed into a beam of divine light that charged through the broken passage. Divine Eye of Annihilation. The Dark Knight Emperor had a deep understanding of the three titans. It had to be known that only by knowing one's enemy could one emerge victorious in 100 battles. He was a very cautious person. Otherwise, the Dark Knight Emperor would never have been able to unify the Dark Knight continent. Preposterous. The Dark Knight Emperor retracted his tenebrous domain. At this moment, a gigantic palm descended from the sky, slamming down at him with a violent force that shook the entire world. Bam! The Dark Knight Emperor raised his palm, and the two palms collided. Damn it! The Dark Knight Emperor felt the unstoppable power erupting from his opponent's hand, and a moment later, he was sent flying backward. Little guy, you're still too inexperienced. Teng Yi's disdainful voice rang out in the Dark Knight Emperor's ear. Whoosh! A beam of divine light of annihilation pierced through the Dark Knight Emperor's divine body. There was a flash of blood, and the Dark Knight Emperor fell from the sky. God Lord Soaring Wing's divine eye of annihilation was extremely powerful. Even Long Kang, who was also a God Lord, did not dare to take it head-on. At this moment, Teng Yi's forehead lit up once more. Whoosh! A second beam of divine light of annihilation shot out of Teng Yi's forehead. This time, Teng Yi's target was the Dark Knight Emperor's forehead. He wanted to destroy the Dark Knight Emperor's Yuan spirit and wipe him out in both body and soul. Just as Teng Yi's divine light of annihilation was about to reach him, an axe suddenly shot out of the Dark Knight Emperor's forehead. Clang! Teng Yi's divine light of annihilation struck the axe. Teng Yi was shocked by this sight. While Teng Yi was still reeling in shock, the Dark Knight Emperor had already grabbed the axe. In the next moment, a powerful aura suddenly appeared. The weather changed, the sun and moon dimmed, and even the sky seemed like it was about to be overturned. The Dark Knight Emperor instantly entered the state of one with the axe, fusing his own power with the power of the divine axe and exploding with a power that surpassed his own. Interesting. Teng Yi's eyes lit up. This guy really came prepared. The Dark Knight Emperor gripped the heaven-shattering axe and swung it at Teng Yi with all his might. A resplendent blade of light shot out from the divine axe in Jiyu Fei's hand and tore through the void. The blade of light soared for thousands of zhong, as if it could split the entire world in half. I'll let you see what it means to be invincible. As Teng Yi spoke, he opened his mouth and spat out a beam of divine light that met the incoming blade of light. Whoosh! The blade of light was directly dispersed by the divine light released by Teng Yi. After the divine light dispersed the blade of light, it directly pierced toward the Dark Knight Emperor. The Dark Knight Emperor sneered coldly. His figure suddenly blurred and became transparent. The exterminating divine light that Teng Yi had shot out was so powerful that it directly pierced through the Dark Knight Emperor's body. The Dark Knight Emperor could only watch the exterminating divine light pierce through his body. At this moment, the gate of the Divine Hall on Incipient God Mountain suddenly opened. Two figures walked out. True Dragon Emperor and Death God Master didn't notice the Divine Hall behind them. Oh, it's so lively outside. The black-clothed young man who walked out of the Divine Hall said with surprise. This black-clothed young man was Jiyu Fei, and the one behind Jiyu Fei was the human that the divine beast had transformed into. Greetings, Master. At this moment, Death God Master and True Dragon Emperor heard the commotion and hurried to greet Jiyu Fei. When Death God Master saw the person behind Jiyu Fei, he was startled, but he didn't say anything. "Where's Chen Yu? Has he come out?" Ji Fei calmly looked at Nine Death God and said, "Master, this subordinate didn't see Chen Yu come out." Death God Master couldn't help but sweat as Ji Fei stared at him. "He dared to trick me. Go and capture him," Ji Fei said to the divine beast behind him. "Yes." The divine beast turned and walked into the divine hall. This, Death God Master and True Dragon Emperor looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. Chen Yu was the boss of the heavenly god realm's 3 big shots. He was extremely powerful. He just didn't want to ascend to the celestial realm. If he wanted to, he could attract an ascension tribulation and ascend at any time. At this moment, Ji Fei looked at the Dark Knight Emperor and God Lord Soaring Wing, who were fighting in the sky. As expected, Ji Fei was angry, truly angry. This Chen Yu had dared to plot against him and work with God Lord Soaring Wing to kill all the people he had brought with him. This plan was ruthless, but Chen Yu had severely underestimated Ji Fei and the Dark Knight Monarch. No one knew that the Dark Knight Monarch was also an expert in disguising himself as a pig to eat the tiger. He had actually concealed his strength so deeply. Even in his battle with Ji Fei on the Dark Knight continent, the Dark Knight Emperor hadn't used the power of the Darkness God Beast's bloodline. This was his greatest secret. One had to realize that the Darkness God Beast was a public enemy in the heavenly god realm. If anyone found out that he was a descendant of the Darkness God Beast, he would face a calamity. But it was different now. He was now Ji Fei's subordinate, and Ji Fei was a ruthless person who could easily kill divine venerables. In the heavenly god realm, who else besides the 3 big shots would dare to attack Ji Fei? Thus, the Dark Knight Emperor no longer needed to hide his identity. "That damned fellow. All of you, go together and capture him," Ji Fei roared at Death God Master and True Dragon Emperor. "Master, the other party was a god lord." The seal on the incipient God Mountain had been activated, and there was a supreme power protecting the divine mountain. That was why they dared to come back to watch the battle. Otherwise, they would still be watching from 100,000 miles away. Chapter 4194. A battle between God Lords could shake the heavens and earth. Even those at the peak of incipient God Mountain had to endure enormous pressure. The 9 Death Ultimate God and the True Dragon Emperor had retreated a long time ago. However, a battle of this level was extremely tempting to them. They had even risked returning to the peak of incipient God Mountain to watch this battle. If they could gain some sort of enlightenment from this battle between the Dark Knight Emperor and God Lord Soaring Wing, they might be able to take that final step towards becoming a God Lord. But now, their master, Ji Fei, was telling them to fight God Lord Soaring Wing. Wasn't this just sending them to their deaths? But at this moment, the sky fiercely quaked, and then a pitch-black hole appeared in the air. Someone shattered the void. "Still want to run?" Ji Fei's eyes flickered when he saw this. In the next moment, he stretched out his hand and grabbed at the sky. Broom. The entire sky seemed to be pulled down by Ji Fei's hand, and a figure was pulled out of the shattered void. Roar. This figure desperately struggled, boundless divine power erupting from its body. But no matter how much this person struggled, he couldn't escape Ji Fei's grasp. He was pulled down from the sky and then slammed to the ground by Ji Fei. This person was none other than God Lord Soaring Wing. The True Dragon Emperor and 9 Deaths God were dumbfounded. At this moment, a figure descended from the sky and landed in front of Ji Fei. "Master." The Dark Knight Emperor hurriedly bowed to Ji Fei. "So you were also hiding a hand. Not even I could tell that you were a descendant of the Darkness God Beast." Ji Fei glanced at the Dark Knight Emperor and indifferently said, "This." The Dark Knight Emperor couldn't help but tense up, a layer of cold sweat appearing on his forehead. Bang! God Lord Soaring Wing's body exploded with immense power as he tried to escape. But Ji Fei extended his right hand and pressed it down on God Lord Soaring Wing. God Lord Soaring Wing was immediately pressed to the ground, motionless. God Lord Soaring Wing was both shocked and infuriated. Ji Fei had come out, but Boss had disappeared. Had Boss failed and been killed by Ji Fei? God Lord Soaring Wing couldn't help but despair at this thought. Chen Yu and Teng Yi's plan to get rid of Ji Yufei had been foolproof, but to God Lord Teng Yi's surprise, Ji Yufei had come out. To God Lord Teng Yi's shock, the person accompanying Ji Yufei was the patriarch. In the entire heavenly god realm, there was only one person who could be addressed as ancestor by Teng Yi, and that was this odd divine beast that Ji Yufei had subdued. In the entire heavenly god realm, only the three big shots knew of its existence. However, the three big shots were just like children in front of it. The three powerhouses all referred to the three odd divine beasts as their ancestors. He was the #1 expert of the heavenly god realm, God Ancestor Jotian. The three magnates regarded God Ancestor Jotian as the guardian of the heaven divine realm. However, they did not know that the reason why God Ancestor Jotian had been guarding the ancestor vein of the heaven divine realm for so many years was not to protect the ancestor vein from being harmed, but to refine the ancestor vein and become a real immortal expert. You can die now. As Ji Yufei spoke, he pressed down with his right hand. With the sound of bones cracking, God Lord Soaring Wing turned into a bloody mist. Master, it's a pity to kill him. God Ancestor Jotian sighed. This, the true Dragon Emperor and the Dark Knight Emperor's expressions changed, especially the Dark Knight Emperor. If Teng Yi died in Ji Yufei's hands, it would be a great regret for him. Do you think he can still live after scheming against my people? Ji Yufei said indifferently. Then, he used a mysterious technique to devour God Lord Soaring Wing's essence, chi, and spirit. Even his primordial spirit was devoured. This was a God Lord. Although Ji Yufei devoured a God Lord, his cultivation did not recover much. God Lord Soaring Wing died at the hands of Ji Yufei. As for Ji Yufei, he had used a single hand to kill a God Lord like Teng Yi. And Chen Yu. Ji Yufei gritted his teeth. God Ancestor Jotian did not find Chen Yu in the ancestral vein. Chen Yu had left long ago. He had planted a restrictive technique on Chen Yu's body. With a single thought, he could destroy Chen Yu's body and primordial spirit. However, Chen Yu was lucky to die like this. Although Ji Yufei was furious, he did not kill Chen Yu just like that. I'll give you 3 days to capture Chen Yu. Ji Yufei glanced at everyone and said, Yes, Master. God Ancestor Jotian and the others quickly accepted the order. Soon, the news spread and shocked the entire world. The heavenly divine realm finally has a new master. At this moment, in the sky 10,000 miles away from the incipient God Mountain, a fat man carrying a halberd looked in the direction of the incipient God Mountain with a solemn expression. Boss is really arrogant. Even the guy guarding there is not a match for Boss. The fat man was shocked. Even the current him was no match for that existence. Why don't we go and take a look? The fat man turned into a ray of divine light and rushed towards the incipient God Mountain. At this moment, there was only Ji Yufei on the incipient God Mountain. The others had gone to kill Chen Yu. To Ji Yufei, 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. It was time for him to leave. He had devoured the origin chi of heaven and earth. There was nothing else that Ji Yufei needed in the heavenly divine realm. Besides the origin chi of heaven and earth, he had also obtained an immortal heart and a bone bead. Ji Yufei vaguely guessed that these 2 items might belong to the same person. Of course, it was just a guess. Boss, at this moment, a voice pulled Ji Yufei back from his thoughts. Ji Yufei looked up and saw that it was the fat man. The fat man was so mysterious that even Ji Yufei could not see through him. Swoosh! A figure descended from the sky and landed in front of Ji Yufei. What are you doing here? Ji Yufei frowned and said. I want to attack the incipient God Mountain with Boss, the fat man said. Alright, since you're here, go and capture Chen Yu. Ji Yufei said. You want to capture Chen Yu? The fatty was shocked. This God Lord Chen Yu was the strongest existence of the 3 heavyweights, the boss of the 3 heavyweights. Of course, the heavenly divine realm no longer had the 3 giants because Long Kang was dead. He dared to betray me. Do you think he can still live? Ji Yufei said ruthlessly. Hearing this, the fatty's expression immediately became solemn. Just as the fat man arrived, in a desolate mountain hundreds of thousands of miles away from the incipient God Mountain, Chen Yu, surrender and follow me back to see Master. Otherwise, Today will be the day of your death. A powerful aura spread over the mountain. There was a confrontation. You want me to surrender? Impossible. Qian Yu was the boss of the three giants. How could he surrender just because of one sentence? Then I'm sorry. That person directly attacked Qian Yu. Boom. That armored god general punched out, causing the entire world to tremble. This punch shook the heavens and earth. Qian Yu was taken aback. He didn't think that this group of people would have such a powerful cultivation base. The person in the lead even displayed a powerful battle prowess. There was no time to think about why. Qian Yu also punched out. Boom. The two fists collided in an instant, causing a loud bang. The sound spread out in all directions, and the surrounding void immediately rippled like water. The two figures separated in an instant, but immediately collided with each other. Impossible. How could this be? Qian Yu became more frightened as he fought. This god general was his subordinate and only had the cultivation of a god emperor. How did this guy's cultivation suddenly become so strong? It should be known that he was a god lord. It was easy for him to kill a god emperor. But now, he couldn't even defeat a puny god general. He was too useless. At this moment, a powerful wave of energy rippled, startling many people. Ji Yufei's bounty caused everyone's eyes to turn red. Therefore, at this moment, almost every cultivator was searching for Qian Yu. Because as long as they found and captured Qian Yu, they would be able to obtain the item they yearned for even in their dreams. Moreover, the people chasing after Qian Yu all went to Ji Yufei to obtain a Dao talisman. This wasn't an ordinary Dao talisman. After using this Dao talisman, one could obtain great power. However, this power couldn't last for long. The god general who was fighting with Qian Yu had used one of Ji Yufei's talismans to gain the strength to fight against Qian Yu. Of course, there was a price to pay for using this power. In this world, there was no such thing as reaping without sowing. If one wanted great power, one had to pay the corresponding price. No one could succeed casually. It's Qian Yu. Haha, we're rich this time. Some of the experts who rushed over were elated when they saw Qian Yu. Someone crushed the Dao talisman and charged towards Qian Yu. His mine. Unwilling to fall behind, someone crushed the Dao talisman and fought Qian Yu. One should know that Qian Yu was like a peerless divine medicine right now. Everyone wanted a bite of him. This gave Qian Yu a chance to escape. Two fists couldn't fight against four hands. Very quickly, Qian Yu's shoulder was hit by a fist, sending him flying. I'm not going to keep you company. Borrowing the strength of his opponent's punch, Qian Yu disappeared instantly. What? The crowd was dumbfounded and chased after him. However, in the next moment, they stopped because they had already used the power that Ji Yufei left for them. This power couldn't last long and could only last for a short period of time. Chapter 4195. Qian Yu was the #1 divine lord in the heaven god world. He was extremely powerful and his cultivation base was only second to Zhu Tian. Although Ji Yufei had issued a kill order to Qian Yu, there were not many people in the heaven god world who could stop him if he wanted to run for his life. However, although the heaven god world was huge, there was no place for Qian Yu. Countless experts in the heaven god world searched for Qian Yu crazily under Ji Yufei's reward because Ji Yufei's reward was too great. Even the 9 Deaths God and the Dark Knight Emperor could not hold themselves back and went after Qian Yu. The true Dragon Emperor naturally did not want to be left behind. They brought Ji Yufei's talismans with them. As long as they crushed the talismans, they would be able to fight against a divine lord. In fact, only God Path experts above the Emperor God realm could use the Dao talisman that Ji Yufei refined. Cultivators below the Emperor God realm could not withstand the power of the Dao talisman at all. If a cultivator below the God Emperor realm tried to use the talismans, the worst outcome would be their body exploding. The luckiest one would lose his physical body and divine body. Only his primordial spirit would be left and it would take a long time for him to recover his cultivation base. Ji Yufei was really angry. He did not hesitate to refine dozens of talismans just to capture Qian Yu. At this moment, Qian Yu was like a street rat. No matter where he went in the heaven god world, he would be attacked. Just like that, Chen Yu fled for 2 days. On the third day, he was blocked by 3 experts in a valley. The number 1 divine lord of the heaven god world stood on a huge rock in the valley with his hands behind his back. An imposing aura surged from his body. Little 9, Dark Knight, and this little worm, how dare you come here to die? Chen Yu did not care about the 3 experts at all. Chen Yu, you better follow me back to see Master. Don't make things difficult for us. The 9 Deaths god looked at Chen Yu coldly. That's right. Teng Yi is dead. You don't want to end up like him, right? The Dark Knight Emperor continued. As long as you come back with us, we can help you plead in front of Master. Perhaps once Master's anger subsides, he might spare your life. The True Dragon Emperor said. Ha ha, Chen Yu glanced at the True Dragon Emperor before bursting into laughter. What are you laughing at? The True Dragon Emperor's face immediately darkened. Do you think I'm a fool? Go back with you. Ha ha. Chen Yu laughed. These fellows actually wanted to trick him? How laughable. Then we can only capture you and bring you back. As Divine Monarch 9 Deaths spoke, he crushed a Dao talisman in his hand. In the next moment, he felt a surge of energy explode in his body. This energy was so strong that it instantly expanded the meridians in his body by several times. Boom! A violent wave of power erupted from 9 Deaths' Divine Lord's body. Countless pitch-black spatial cracks immediately appeared in the surrounding void. Chen Yu's pupils shrunk upon seeing that. Although he had been running for his life for the past 2 days, he noticed that those fellows who were chasing after him had suddenly increased their combat strength before fighting him. It was definitely not a secret technique. There was no secret technique in the Heaven Divine world that could directly increase an Emperor God's cultivation and combat strength to the ultimate God realm or even the Divine Lord realm. The True Dragon Emperor and the Dark Knight Emperor also crushed the Dao talismans in their hands. Roar! The True Dragon Emperor roared into the sky as a giant dragon shadow directly rushed out from his body and circled in the sky. Kill! Chen Yu roared. In the next moment, he exerted strength in his feet and crushed the boulder under his feet. At the same time, his entire body turned into a divine light and soared into the sky in an attempt to escape. He did not want to be entangled by those 3 fellows. Once he was entangled by those 3 fellows, the other experts would swarm in. By then, it would be impossible for him to fight against dozens of ultimate gods alone no matter how strong he was. Trying to escape. The 9-Slayer ultimate god waved his right hand and a Dao diagram immediately fell from the sky and suppressed the divine light that soared into the sky. What? Chen Yu's figure appeared in the void. Ha ha, trying to escape? Dream on. The True Dragon Emperor laughed out loud as he directly showed his original form and fiercely pounced toward Chen Yu in the sky. The power of his pounce caused countless cracks to appear in the void. If it was not for the mighty power of the Dao diagram in the sky that suppressed the void, the True Dragon Emperor's pounce would have shattered the entire void. What's going on? Chen Yu's expression was extremely ugly. Those fellows really came prepared. Boom! He directly blocked the True Dragon Emperor's dragon claw with a punch. At the same time, the Dark Knight Emperor also made his move. A divine axe directly rushed out from his body and turned into an immortal divine blade that slashed toward Chen Yu's head. The blade of the axe split the void between heaven and earth. Clang! Chen Yu waved his hand and blocked the heaven-shattering divine axe. Seeing that scene, the Dark Knight Emperor could not help but be shocked. Chen Yu's divine body was too strong to be able to block the attack of the heaven-shattering divine axe. One should know that the heaven-shattering divine axe was the number 1 divine weapon in the Dark Knight continent. It could easily kill an ultimate god. Emperor gods were as weak as ants in front of the heaven-shattering divine axe. Boom! The 9-Slayer Divine Lord's 9-Slayer Divine Fist landed heavily on Chen Yu's chest. Crack! The sound of bones breaking immediately came from Chen Yu's body. His entire chest had collapsed inwards from the 9-Slayer Divine Lord's punch. Chen Yu blocked the True Dragon Emperor's dragon claw and the Dark Knight Emperor's heaven-shattering divine axe. However, he could not block the 9-Slayer Divine Lord's punch. This was the 9-Slayer Divine Fist created by the 9-Slayer Divine Lord. One punch could shake the heavens and earth. Roar! Chen Yu was enraged. In the next moment, an even more tyrannical wave of energy erupted from his body, directly sending the three experts flying. What? This guy, the Dark Knight Emperor, the Nine-Slayer Divine Lord, and the others were shocked. Qian Yu was indeed worthy of being the #1 Divine Lord in the heavenly divine realm. He was too strong. If they were to fight one-on-one, they might not be his match. Of course, under such circumstances, the Dark Knight Emperor and the others would not be so stupid to fight one-on-one with him. Boom. After Qian Yu sent the three experts flying, he crazily attacked the Dao pattern in the sky. The Dao pattern immediately shook. He actually shook the Dao pattern? Chapter 4196. Qian Yu was extremely ferocious. He was able to push back three experts at the same time. His battle prowess was definitely #1 in the heavenly god realm. If they were to fight one-on-one, it would be impossible for Nine Deaths Hierarch, the Dark Knight Emperor, or the True Dragon Emperor to defeat Qian Yu. Rumble. At this moment, Qian Yu turned into a ball of divine light that looked like a sun. He soared into the sky and collided fiercely with the Dao diagram in the sky. The entire Dao diagram trembled. Countless divine runes appeared on the Dao diagram. Countless divine runes intertwined on the Dao diagram. The vast power that was released froze the void and sealed a part of the sky. The divine light that Qian Yu turned into was pushed back continuously. However, he did not stop. He continued to crazily collide with the Dao diagram in the sky. He wanted to break out of the Dao diagram. Don't waste your energy. This is Master's item. How can you break it? The True Dragon Emperor sneered. This Dao diagram was the one that Ji Yufei had given to Nine Deaths Hierarch for the time being. The mountain and river diagram was an extreme divine tool. Even if Qian Yu was 10 times stronger, he would not be able to break the seal of the mountain and river diagram. What? Qian Yu couldn't help being startled. No wonder this Dao diagram was so powerful. It turned out that it belonged to Ji Yufei. Nine Deaths Hierarch did not say anything else. He immediately used the Nine Deaths godly fists. 9 fist shadows rushed out from his fists and smashed the void. The 9 fists landed fiercely on Qian Yu's body. The sound of bones breaking could be heard from Qian Yu's body. Such power! Qian Yu stared at Nine Deaths Hierarch with a crazed look in his eyes. After being hit by the 9 Deaths godly fists, his body was immediately covered in blood. Some parts of his body even revealed his bones. However, the next moment, the wounds on Qian Yu's body were healing rapidly. The broken bones were reconnected. In just a few breaths' time, the wounds on his body were completely healed. A wave of power that was stronger than before spread out from Qian Yu's body. This is, Nine Deaths Divine Lord suddenly thought of something when he saw this, and his expression became even worse. Such a strong recovery ability. Even the Dark Knight Emperor couldn't help but exclaim. So what if he has a strong recovery ability? Do you think he can escape? True Dragon Emperor said disapprovingly. Qian Yu stared at Death God 9 and said coldly, the power you borrowed is not your own. Let's see how I kill you one by one. Is that so? Then bring it on. Hierarch 9 Deaths gave tit for tat. At this moment, he was no longer afraid. He wanted to borrow Ji Yufei's power to get rid of Qian Yu, who was known as the #1 Divine Master in the heavenly god realm. Buzz. At this moment, Qian Yu's body shook. In the next moment, countless figures rushed out from his body and pounced towards the Dark Knight Emperor and the others. Every single one of them was emitting extremely powerful energy ripples. What the hell? The Dark Knight Emperor and Ultimate God 9 Deaths were shocked when they saw this. At this moment, there was no time for them to think too much. In the next moment, they were drowned by Qian Yu's countless figures. Roar! The 9 heavenly dragons that the True Dragon Emperor had transformed into shook violently. Countless Qian Yu's figures were immediately blasted away and exploded in the void. However, at this moment, the True Dragon Emperor suddenly let out a roar of despair. In the next moment, his head exploded, followed by his body. Boom! 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 9 sounds were heard in a row. Violent energy exploded and the huge body of the 9 true dragons that the True Dragon Emperor had transformed into exploded into a mist of blood. Not even his bones and scales were left. The primordial spirit of the true Dragon Emperor rushed out. However, in the next moment, the primordial spirit of the true Dragon Emperor also exploded. What? Death God 9 Deaths and the Dark Knight Emperor were extremely shocked when they sensed this. After all, the true Dragon Emperor's cultivation and combat power were not inferior to theirs after he used Jiyu Fei's Dao Talisman. The true Dragon Emperor had died. He had been killed by Chen Yu. You can't even take a punch from me and you still want to kill me? What a joke. Chen Yu's voice reverberated in the void. Even the powerful Death God 9 Deaths and the Dark Knight Emperor couldn't sense his whereabouts. Damn it. The Dark Knight Emperor and the Death God 9 Deaths were both frightened and enraged. Chen Yu had killed the true Dragon Emperor with one punch. They were in danger. At this moment, Chen Yu's countless figures filled the void. No matter how hard the Dark Knight Emperor and the Death God 9 Deaths attacked, they couldn't escape. If you want to kill me, you should be prepared to be killed by me. Chen Yu's voice arose again. The moment Chen Yu killed the true Dragon Emperor with one punch, Jiyu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on a big rock on the peak of incipient God Mountain, suddenly opened his eyes. The true dragon is killed. Jiyu Fei muttered to himself. He was a little surprised. The true Dragon Great Emperor had brought along the Dao Talisman that he had refined himself. As long as he used the Dao Talisman, he would obtain the strongest power and be able to contend against the God Ancestor. Then, he closed his eyes. His subordinates wouldn't die that easily. It's too early for you to be happy. Right at this moment, the Death God 9 Deaths sneered in the valley. What? Chen Yu was bewildered. Rumble, the void suddenly shook. Then, something that Chen Yu couldn't believe happened. The true Dragon Emperor's primordial spirit was being reconstructed. The specks of soul light condensed together once more. After that, Chen Yu's primordial spirit was reconstructed, followed by his dragon body. The exploded dragon body appeared in the mist of blood, reconstructing the primordial spirit and the dragon body. Chen Yu was stunned. It was a heaven-defying technique. Boom. When the true Dragon Emperor's primordial spirit and the dragon body fused together, an unprecedented pressure burst out from his body. Chen Yu, die. The true Dragon Emperor roared and attacked Chen Yu. He spat out a divine bead and a terrifying divine flame burst out from it. Instantly, the void that was suppressed by the mountain and river diagram turned into a sea of fire. This was the true dragon divine flame that the true Dragon Emperor had condensed. The true dragon divine flame could burn the sky and boil the sea. It burned the void silently. On the body of the true Dragon Emperor, the power of the Dao Talisman that Jiyu Fei had refined was activated to the extreme. The countless figures that Chen Yu had conjured were burned by the true dragon divine flame and disappeared in the sea of fire. In the end, only one figure was left standing in the sea of fire. The true Dragon Emperor had broken Chen Yu's technique. Chapter 4197. With the true Dragon Emperor's cultivation base, he was definitely not a match for Chen Yu, the #1 divine lord in the heavenly divine realm. However, the true Dragon Emperor had triggered Jiyu Fei's power. In this case, it wouldn't be easy for Chen Yu to kill the true Dragon Emperor. Preposterous. Chen Yu was shocked and furious to see that the true Dragon Emperor had not only reformed his primordial spirit, but also his physical body. Moreover, the true dragon divine fire had turned his clones into smoke. Die. The true Dragon Emperor roared and pounced towards Chen Yu. Both of his hands turned into dragon claws as he slashed towards Chen Yu. The void was as fragile as a thin piece of paper under his dragon claws. How is this possible? Chen Yu was shocked. The true Dragon Emperor's battle prowess had increased to a level where he could threaten him. How did Jiyu Fei do it? Jiyu Fei's technique had shocked Chen Yu to the extreme. Swoosh. Chen Yu moved and retreated. His body moved rapidly in the void, leaving behind a series of afterimages. The true Dragon Emperor's dragon claws tore the afterimages apart and chased after Chen Yu. Violent energy was released from his body, causing the void to tremble. At that moment, the 9 Death Hierarch activated the mountain and river diagram with all his might. The Extreme Path Saint item did not awaken and only revealed a trace of its aura. The extreme path saint item was not something that the Nine Death Hierarch could use. However, even a strand of the mountain river diagram's aura was enough to suppress the entire heavens and earth, causing Qian Yu to be unable to escape. This diagram, Qian Yu had been in the heavenly divine realm for countless years. He had started his cultivation earlier than the other two magnates. However, he had never seen such a treasure diagram that could suppress the universe. Could it be that Ji Fei is from the upper realm? Qian Yu's heart was in turmoil as he thought about it. Qian Yu naturally knew about the existence of the upper realm. The upper realm was a higher realm than the heavenly divine realm. That world was the cultivation goal of countless cultivators in the heavenly god realm. Everyone wanted to cultivate to the hierarch realm, then shatter the void and enter the upper realm. However, from ancient times until now, there were not many living beings who could cultivate to become a divine venerable. Especially after the Dark Ages, it became harder for the heavenly god realm to produce a divine venerable. Even among the god emperors, for tens of thousands of years, there was only one Wang Xuanji. Boom! Bam! Muffled sounds of collisions rang out continuously. The true Dragon Emperor and Qian Yu continued to clash against each other. Violent energy rippled out in all directions, engulfing the heavens and the earth. If it weren't for the mountain and river diagram stabilizing the space between heaven and earth, an area of tens of thousands of miles would have been reduced to ruins. One had to realize that this was a battle between god lords. The Dark Knight Emperor stared at Qian Yu, who was in the midst of a great battle. He tightened his grip on the heaven-shattering axe. He was waiting for an opportunity to kill Qian Yu in a single blow. On the heaven-shattering axe, there were divine runes faintly appearing and intertwining. A powerful force burst out from the axe in the Dark Knight Emperor's hand. The entire void was trembling. The battle strength that the true Dragon Emperor had displayed was not his own strength. After a series of fierce attacks, he was sent flying by Qian Yu's punch. The true Dragon Emperor's blood rained down from the sky. Now, two beams of dazzling divine light shot out from the Dark Knight Emperor's eyes. In the next moment, the heaven-shattering axe in his hand turned into an immortal divine light and slashed at Qian Yu. Whoosh! Wherever the divine light passed, blood splattered. Half of his body was split open by the divine light and he was almost split in half. Nine Deaths Deity Fist. Nine Deaths Deity made his move upon seeing this. A violent destructive fist force landed on Qian Yu's body. In the next moment, Qian Yu screamed in pain as he was blasted into a bloody mist by Nine Deaths Deity's punch. He's still not dead. Nine Deaths Deity sneered. Boss, Master wants him alive. The Dark Knight Emperor said to Nine Deaths Deity. What? Hearing this, Nine Deaths Deity's expression changed. They knew that Ji Fei had also planted a restrictive technique on Qian Yu. If Ji Fei wanted to kill Qian Yu, he could do it effortlessly with a single thought. However, Ji Fei wanted him alive. Whoosh! The Dark Knight Emperor made his move again. A beam of black light shot out from hell toward Qian Yu's primordial spirit. Didn't you say that Master wants him alive? Seeing this, Nine Deaths Deity quickly blocked the Dark Knight Emperor's beam of Death Deity. Let's beat this guy half to death first. The Dark Knight Emperor explained. Hearing this, Nine Deaths Deity was speechless. If they accidentally killed this guy, they would be punished by Ji Fei when they returned. Forget it. Let's kill him first. Nine Deaths Deity immediately made his move and knocked Qian Yu's primordial spirit away. All of you, move aside. Let me do it. At this moment, an old voice was heard. Then, a guy rushed over from afar and grabbed Qian Yu's primordial spirit. Seeing this, Nine Deaths Deity and the Dark Knight Emperor almost went crazy. They almost cursed when they saw the fat meat that was about to be in their mouths flying away. However, when they saw that guy, they immediately swallowed the words they wanted to say. It was as if they had swallowed a fly. Greetings, old ancestor Zhu Tian, Nine Deaths Deity and the others quickly bowed to the newcomer. I want this guy's primordial spirit. Do you have any objections? Old ancestor Zhu Tian glanced at Nine Deaths Deity and the others and said indifferently. No objections, no objections. Nine Deaths Deity and the others quickly said. They did not dare to have any objections. This guy was old ancestor Ju Tian, who was even more powerful than the three magnates of the heaven god world. Even the three magnates did not dare to act presumptuously in front of him. If you have no objections, I'll take my leave. Old ancestor Ju Tian waved his sleeve and soared into the sky, disappearing into the void. This, Nine Deaths deity and the others looked at each other. They were unwilling and angry, but there was nothing they could do. Old ancestor Ju Tian's fist was stronger than theirs. Damn it! The true Dragon Emperor was furious. They were fighting Chen Yu with their lives on the line. Just as they were about to capture Chen Yu, who knew that this old fella would jump out and directly take away Chen Yu's primordial spirit. Sigh. What a waste of effort. Nine Death Divine Venerate was also displeased, but he didn't dare to challenge Patriarch Ju Tian with his cultivation base. The Dark Knight Emperor did not say anything. Let's go back. Nine Deaths deity waved his hand and put away the mountain and river diagram in the sky. Then, he took a step and disappeared into the void. The Dark Knight Emperor and the True Dragon Emperor looked at each other and disappeared into the void at the same time. Boom. After the three experts left, the area within a radius of 10,000 miles turned into dust. The entire ground sank thousands of feet and countless living beings died. The entire barbaric mountains were almost destroyed. Who did this? Many experts were startled and came to check. They were all shocked to see this scene. Is it old ancestor Ju Tian's work? Someone said. Old ancestor Ju Tian's appearance shocked the world. This god ancestor had destroyed many powerful clans. Wherever he went, blood flowed like a river. Although Jiyu Fei was old ancestor Ju Tian's master, he did not care about him because he would leave the heaven divine realm one day later. Moreover, old ancestor Ju Tian did not attack the human clan. Jiyu Fei had made it clear that he would kill anyone who dared to attack the human clan. Even a supreme existence like god ancestor Ju Tian did not dare to show any dissatisfaction. Because their lives were in Jiyu Fei's hands. The survival of the human clan was what Jiyu Fei cared about. Time is almost up. These guys are so useless. They can't even capture Chen Yu. On the peak of incipient God Mountain, Jiyu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on a boulder, suddenly opened his eyes. At this moment, a figure descended from the sky and landed in front of Jiyu Fei. Greetings, Master. An old man knelt down on the ground. Looks like you're quite capable. Jiyu Fei looked at the old man and said. This old man was old ancestor Ju Tian. Master, Chen Yu's origin soul is here. Old ancestor Ju Tian released Chen Yu's origin soul. Master, please spare my life. Chen Yu's origin soul immediately begged Jiyu Fei for mercy. Haha, spare you? Jiyu Fei laughed when he heard this. He hated betrayal the most in his life. There was only one way to deal with traitors, and that was to kill. Master, I don't know what I did wrong to make you so angry. Master, please spare me this time. Chen Yu begged. All right, I'll let you go. Jiyu Fei suddenly said with a smile. Thank you, Master, for sparing my life. Chen Yu was overjoyed. How about I let you bathe in the purgatory divine fire? Jiyu Fei said. What? Chen Yu was scared out of his wits. Master, I'll suppress him in the purgatory divine fire and refine his soul for 10,000 years. God ancestor Ju Tian said immediately. That's it. Jiyu Fei nodded. No, Master, you can't do this to me. Please kill me. Chen Yu was really scared. The pain of refining one's soul was the worst thing in the world. Chen Yu would rather die than endure it. Kill you? That'll be too easy on you. Just enjoy the taste of purgatory. Jiyu Fei said and waved his hand to dismiss God ancestor Ju Tian. God ancestor Ju Tian left with Chen Yu's origin soul. It's time to leave. Jiyu Fei looked up at the sky. At this moment, a divine flame suddenly appeared in the sky. Jiyu Fei was shocked when he saw the fire. With a wave of his hand, the flame landed in his hand. In the next moment, a figure appeared in the divine fire. Father, save me. Ling Er. Chapter 4198. It's a bloodline message. What happened to Ling Er? Why did she send me a message to ask for help? Jiyu Fei could not stay calm. Jiyu Ling was his only daughter. He had given her the human emperor divine mace to protect her when she stepped on the ancient road of the human tribe. Could someone threaten Ling with the protection of the human emperor divine mace? At this time, the bloodline flame on Jiyu Fei's right palm was throbbing. Within the flame, the young girl's anxious and helpless expression made Jiyu Fei's heart tighten. Ling I'll kill everyone who dares to touch my Ling Jiyu Fei gritted his teeth and said. Master, at that moment, Wang Xuanji, Wang Xin and Emperor God Mo Yuan, who were waiting by the side, were shocked. They had never seen their master so furious before. Human world. I want to go back to the human world. Jiyu Fei abruptly stood up from the boulder. Pass on my order. Heaven Lord Ju will control the Heaven Divine Realm. 9 Death Divine Master, Emperor Dark Knight, Emperor True Dragon, and Wang Xuanji will help. Whoever dares to disobey will be killed, Jiyu Fei said sternly. His voice was transmitted into the ears of everyone present. Yes, Master. Everyone on the peak of incipient God Mountain knelt down before Jiyu Fei. At this moment, Emperor Dark Knight, 9 Death Divine Master, and Emperor True Dragon had not returned. However, Jiyu Fei was anxious to return. He didn't want to wait any longer. He wasn't worried that these fellows would cause trouble after he left. After all, he had placed a forbidden technique on these fellows. Their lives depended on their whims. Buzz. Jiyu Fei then took out the myriad world wheel. An ancient aura that seemed to come from a primitive world spread out from the myriad world wheel. This is, the so-called invincible giants in the Heaven Divine Realm had never seen a supreme Tao artifact like the universal world wheel. It was the number 1 Tao artifact in the ancestral realm. The aura emitted from the Wheel of Heavens and myriad realms made God Ancestor Ju Tian and the others extremely terrified and their souls trembled. The universal world wheel could connect to the Heaven Punishment realm. The human world was also one of the universal world wheel. Jiyu Fei could use it to reincarnate to the human world. However, Jiyu Fei knew very well that he would have to pay a huge price if he wanted to utilize the universal world cycle to enter the mortal dimension. However, it didn't matter how huge the price was. It was impossible for Jiyu Fei not to save his daughter. Furthermore, Zhao Hao, Meng Long, and Yang were all together with Jiyu Ling. They had stepped on the human ancient road together. Zhao Hao was the nephew of Zhao Ziru of the Zhao family in the Heaven Realm, and Yang was Jiyu Ling's disciple. Both of them had heaven-defying constitutions. Although Meng Long did not have a heaven-defying physique, he had an indomitable will to charge forward. This was why Jiyu Fei admired Meng Long so much. He saw himself in Meng Long when he was cultivating at Taishan Mountain. Back then, wasn't he also a crippled person who was regarded as useless by the disciples of the sect? Now, those who laughed at him and looked down on him were all dead. Even his opponent, Dongfang Chen, had been dead for a long time. Of course, the Dongfang family still existed. At this moment, all the living beings in the heavenly God realm felt an aura that wasn't very strong, but it was above everything. Countless living beings were terrified to the extreme. Master really came from the upper world. God Ancestor Ju looked at the peak of incipient God Mountain in fear. He had just sent Qian Yu's primordial spirit into purgatory to be tortured. As soon as the universal world wheel appeared, the entire Heaven Divine Realm trembled. Even the heavenly way was suppressed. In this world, nothing could compete with the universal world wheel. Brat, what do you want? A figure suddenly rushed out from Jiyu Fei's body. It was a disheveled old man. Seeing a person suddenly rush out from Jiyu Fei's body, the giants of the Heaven Divine Realm at the peak of incipient God Mountain were all dumbfounded. I want to go back to the human realm. Jiyu Fei looked at the disheveled old man and said. This disheveled old man was the god of the mountain and river cauldron. As soon as the universal world wheel appeared, this guy was alarmed. Jiyu Fei's supreme Tao treasures had always been with him. Even though the primogenitor had sent him into the cycle of reincarnation, his supreme Tao treasures were still with him. However, with Jiyu Fei's current cultivation, it was really difficult for him to use the supreme Tao artifacts. Go back to the human realm? The disheveled old man looked up at the universal world wheel in the sky and then looked at Ji Fei. The disheveled old man shook his head and said, "Given your current cultivation, if you force yourself to use the universal world wheel, your vitality will be greatly damaged. If worse comes to worst, your cultivation will disappear and you might even lose your life. I have to go back." Ji Fei was very determined. "Are you crazy?" The disheveled old man stared at Ji Fei and said in a deep voice. Ji Fei did not say anything. "Sigh. It's a pity that I can't help you. Do as you see fit." With that, the disheveled old man turned into a divine light and rushed into Ji Fei's body. The mountain and river cauldron was an Supreme Tao Saint artifact, and the universal world wheel was known as the #1 Supreme Tao artifact in the primogenitor world. Naturally, the universal world wheel would not be controlled by the mountain and river cauldron, which was also a Supreme Tao artifact. Without hesitation, Ji Fei channeled his mystic technique. The Wheel of Worlds in the sky moved, and an even stronger aura spread out from the Wheel of Worlds in the sky. Countless cracks appeared on the Wheel of Worlds in the sky. The Wheel of Heavens and Realms was not a complete Supreme Tao artifact. It was definitely not an easy task to repair this Supreme Tao artifact. Countless cracks appeared on the Wheel of Heavens and myriad worlds. This shocked Ji Fei. It wasn't an easy task to repair this Supreme Saint artifact. At that moment, Ji Fei spat a mouthful of fresh blood towards the universal world wheel. The next moment, the Wheel of Heavens and Realms began to vibrate. Divine inscriptions appeared on the Wheel of Heavens and Realms, and each rune was a world. At that moment, the universal world wheel's vitality was being devoured by the universal world wheel from afar. Although it was only for a few breaths, he could not hold on much longer. It was especially so when the power contained within the eternal true bone on his chest was being devoured by the universal world wheel. So what if his vitality was greatly damaged? Ji Fei gritted his teeth and held on bitterly. At that moment, new runes appeared continuously on the universal world wheel. However, there was still no human realm or the coordinates of the human realm. At that moment, a third of Ji Fei's powerful vitality had been devoured by the universal world wheel. Just as he was about to collapse, his eyes suddenly lit up. "I've finally found it." Chapter 4199. At the peak of the incipient God Mountain, Ji Fei used the Wheel of all Heavens and Realms to open a passage between the heavenly realm and the human realm. He wanted to return to the human realm to save his beloved daughter. Ji Ling actually used her bloodline to ask him for help. In order to save his daughter, nothing could stop him from returning to the human realm. Whether it was in the heavenly realm or the human realm, he had many enemies. Those people couldn't do anything to him, so they targeted his daughter. It was really despicable. After so many years, Ji Ling's cultivation must have improved greatly. She also had the Supreme Emperor Divine Mace to protect her. The person who could put her in such a desperate situation, even if it wasn't a Supreme, was most likely a half-step Supreme. Moreover, the human realm had the power of heavenly punishment. The power of heavenly punishment could kill Supreme Masters. Therefore, the possibility of an Supreme Master appearing in the human realm was very low. For a moment, Ji Fei couldn't think of anyone who had the guts to attack his daughter. Thinking of this, Ji Fei wanted to return to the human realm even more. Boom! Ji Fei directly activated the Wheel of all Heavens and Realms. The moment the Wheel of all Heavens and Realms was activated, 80% of his cultivation was instantly absorbed by the Wheel of all Heavens and Realms. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Ji Fei's mouth. He had suffered a great impact from this. His cultivation was not enough. The Wheel of all Heavens and Realms was the #1 Supreme Tao artifact in the ancestral realm. To activate this Supreme Tao artifact, the price to pay was too high. Ji Fei didn't stop and continued to attack. The experts on the peak of the mountain were all stunned when they saw this scene. The wheel in the sky gradually rotated and slowly turned into a black hole. A spatial passage to the human realm was gradually formed. However, the power needed to maintain such a passage was too great. With Ji Fei's cultivation, he naturally couldn't bear it. However, he could attract the power of heaven and earth for his own use. With a thought, Jiyu Fei's powerful divine sense immediately rushed out from his body and instantly enveloped a region of 1,000,000 miles. In the next moment, the boundless spiritual chi of heaven and earth frantically gathered towards him. Shortly after, a massive vortex of spiritual chi appeared on the peak of incipient God Mountain. Beams of light that naked eyes could see came from a distance and entered Jiyu Fei's body. The incipient mountain was the core of the heavenly God realm. The heaven and earth spirit energy gathered here was much more than anywhere else in the heavenly God realm. However, with Jiyu Fei's absorption, the heavenly God realm's ancestral land's heaven-earth spirit chi was continuously drained away. Very soon, the level of the spirit chi here fell to a level where it was inferior to that of an ordinary spiritual land. God Ancestor Ju Tian and the others were shocked. Was Master trying to steal the power of the heavens? Relying on the boundless spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the heavenly God realm's ancestral land, the myriad world wheel revolved continuously. Finally, with a muffled sound, the myriad world wheel stopped revolving, and a stable spatial passageway appeared in front of Jiyu Fei. All right. Ha ha. Jiyu Fei burst into laughter. Cough, cough. After laughing for a while, Jiyu Fei started coughing. Blood trickled down from the corner of his mouth. However, he stared at the pitch-black spatial passageway in the sky with determination in his eyes. It's time to go back. Although he had paid a huge price, such as his eternal real bone becoming dim and his cultivation almost dissipating, Jiyu Fei still thought that it was worth it. This was the moment when he was at his weakest. On the peak of incipient God Mountain, some people looked at Jiyu Fei maliciously. Oh, I forgot to tell you that the restrictive spell I cast on you is a little strange. If I die, your bodies and souls will be destroyed as well. Jiyu Fei looked at the experts of the heavenly God realm who were lying on the ground and said, "What, True Dragon Emperor, Dark Knight Emperor, Death Supremacy," and the others paled instantly. How could there be such a restrictive spell in this world? They couldn't believe it, but they didn't dare to take the risk. It should be known that they only had one life. If they died, everything would be over. Only by staying alive could they have a chance to get rid of Jiyu Fei's control. Take good care of this world for me. After saying that, Jiyu Fei walked toward the spatial passageway in the sky. Step by step, he ascended to the sky and entered the spatial passageway without looking back. Then, he disappeared inside. Buzz. Right after Jiyu Fei entered the spatial passageway, the universal realm wheel buzzed. A moment later, it disappeared into the void. The spatial passageway disappeared together with the universal realm wheel. Master, left just like that. Everyone was shocked by what had just happened. Everything was too unreal, as if they were in a dream. Master left, but he will come back. Death Supremacy said emotionlessly. The heavenly God realm didn't change much because of Jiyu Fei's departure. It was still controlled by the magnates. However, the current magnates had changed. God Ancestor Ju didn't care about the external affairs. The three magnates were the Death Supremacy, the Dark Knight Emperor, and the True Dragon Emperor. Human World, East Region, Wanxiang City. Ever since Jiyu Fei left, the city wasn't peaceful anymore. Demons attacked from time to time. Dongfang family and the Zhao family of the antiquity were also eyeing the city. Tai Shui Daoist, the city lord of Wanxiang City, was having a headache recently. Without Jiyu Fei, he was the only one here. Facing the pressure from all sides, he didn't even have time to cultivate. City lord, the Zhao family sent people here again. This time, they want us to cede 15 cities. This is too much. An angry voice came from the palace of the city lord. Yes, the people from the Dongfang family are here too. They want 10 cities. An old man in the main hall said. Humph. When Master is here, these guys don't even dare to fart. Now that Master is not here, they are getting more and more presumptuous. Tai Shui Daoist said coldly. What should we do? Should we inform Master Qing? A middle-aged scholar in cyan clothes said with a feather fan in his hand. He was the military advisor of Wanxiang City, Zhuge Liang. Only Tai Shui Daoist and Zhuge Liang were left out of the 13 bandits in the human world. The Master Qing they mentioned was Ji Yufei's brother, Xiaoqing. Now, Xiaoqing had become a big shot in the human world. He was the holy lord of the demon race. Xiaoqing had made a name for himself in the human world. How can we ask Master Qing for help every time? Tai Shui Daoist shook his head. If it wasn't for Xiaoqing, their Wanxiang city would have been destroyed. Zhao family and Dongfang family were afraid of Ji Yufei. However, the demons weren't afraid of Ji Yufei. Recently, there were rumors that a great demon was born in the northernmost land. When is Master coming back? Tai Shui Daoist felt that he couldn't hold it anymore. Chapter 4200. In the mortal realm, outside of the sky ruins, the 5 great regions of the mortal realm were embroiled in constant war. The various powers fought against each other, causing countless lives to be lost. It was as though there was a dark hand in the underworld pushing everything. Humans, demons, immortals, beast men, demonic ancestors, and even the undead spirits all came out to cause trouble. The entire mortal realm seemed to have returned to the dark times of ancient times. At this moment, in a certain vast plain in the eastern domain, banners fluttered in the wind as the neighing of horses could be heard. The Eastern Sage Royal Lord of the human race personally led his troops into battle against the Beast Emperor of the demonic beasts. The human army was so vast that one couldn't see the end of it with a single glance. Each and every one of them was clad in thick armor and wielded a battle spear in their hands, radiating an intense battle intent. The war chariot of the Eastern Sage Royal Lord floated in the air, glowing with boundless golden light, resembling a golden divine sun that illuminated the heavens and earth. The 800,000 Imperial Guards of the Eastern Sage Royal Lord came out in full force. Isn't he afraid that someone would raid his base? In the air, silhouettes could be seen. The battle between the Eastern Sage Royal Dynasty and the Wensho country had alarmed many experts, and many of them came here to spectate. In fact, there were even those from the evil path who came over to collect Yin's souls to refine their evil treasures. One must know that after this battle, regardless of humans or beast men, there would be countless casualties. Such a large number of Yin souls was sufficient for those from the evil path to refine a pretty good treasure. Compared to the Eastern Sage Royal Lord's army, the formation of the Wensho country's army was much more chaotic. However, the Eastern Sage Royal Lord didn't dare to underestimate the over 100,000 armored barbaric bulls at the very front. These armored barbaric bulls had thick skin and thick flesh. Ordinary weapons would find it hard to break through their scales. Each of them was akin to a small moving mountain. Even cultivators would be injured if they were rammed by these armored barbaric bulls. The Wensho country used over 100,000 armored barbaric bulls as the vanguard, and behind them were the fire-breathing beasts. These fire-breathing beasts could spit out fireballs to kill their opponents. Other than the armored barbaric bulls and fire-breathing beasts, the Wensho country also had an aerial force, the wyverns. These wyverns were actually gigantic lizards with wings. The Wensho Empire's battle formation was not set up casually. Behind the fire-breathing beasts was the Beast Emperor's war chariot. This chariot was no ordinary chariot. It was made entirely of bronze, and was adorned with countless skulls. Yes, they were human skulls, and there were dozens of them. These were all powerful existences that had been killed by the Beast Emperor. The Beast Emperor had a habit of collecting the skulls of its opponents. Fight, fight, fight. The 800,000 soldiers of the Eastern Sage army roared in unison, their voices shaking the heavens and earth. All the soldiers felt their blood boiling. This battle would determine the fate of the Eastern Sage Empire. Of course, this battle would also decide the fate of the Wensho country. If they lost, the country would be destroyed. If they won, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Roar. The million beast soldiers of the Wensho country were not to be outdone, roaring out in unison. A terrifying aura burst forth from the Wensho country battle formation, causing the skies to change color. The people from the eastern world don't seem to be here. I don't see those old beasts of the beast race appearing either. The experts spectating the battle from afar discussed. Behind the Eastern Sage Empire was the Dongfang aristocrat clan, while behind the Wensho country was the beast race. Regardless of the Dongfang aristocrat clan or the beast race, Both were the strongest powers in the eastern region. Kill. At this moment, the Eastern Sage Royal Lord roared in rage. The sword in his hand abruptly pointed forward, and in the next instant, the 800,000 Imperial Guards of the Eastern Sage Empire charged towards the Wensho country battle formation like a tidal wave. Kill. The Beast Emperor of the Wensho country also roared in rage. He waved the spiked mace in his hand, and the hundreds of thousands of armored barbarian bulls instantly rushed forward. The sound of their hooves stomping on the ground echoed with thunderous rumbling sounds, causing dust to billow up into the air as the entire earth trembled. In the next instant, behind the armored barbarian bulls, countless fireballs soared up into the skies, blasting towards the Eastern Sage army. The 800,000 human soldiers raised their shields at the same time. The divine light from the shields merged together as a gigantic barrier of light enveloped all the soldiers. Boom! The first fireball landed on the barrier of light, instantly exploding apart. However, the barrier didn't budge in the slightest. After that, countless fireballs rained down from the skies, enveloping the entire human formation. The temperature of the surroundings instantly soared. With the protection of the barrier, although the human formation seemed to have fallen into a sea of fire, in reality, it wasn't damaged at all. Boom! At this moment, the sound of a heavy collision rang out. The first armored barbarian bull smashed ruthlessly into the advancing shields, directly exploding its head as it died. At the forefront of the human army's battle formation were thick shields that were 3 meters tall and had sharp spikes on them. Each of the shields weighed 5,000 kilograms. Although there were wheels underneath them, it would take more than 10 warriors to move them at the same time. Those war soldiers were no ordinary war soldiers. Rather, they were all cultivators with cultivation bases. Naturally, these soldiers couldn't be immortal ranked soldiers, but they weren't too far from it. One must know that these were the strongest soldiers of the Eastern Sage Empire. These generals were all immortal ranked soldiers. There was even Shen King, and the Eastern Sage Imperial Lord was a quasi-saint. At this moment, the sounds of collisions rang out as numerous armored barbarian bulls rushed over with no regard for their lives, causing the shields to tremble violently. Some of the soldiers were even flung backwards from the impact. Boom! All of a sudden, a shield was smashed into smithereens as a barbarian bull that was even larger and stronger than ordinary armored barbarian bulls directly rushed into the battle formation. Kill. The surrounding soldiers instantly surrounded the barbarian bull as they ruthlessly stabbed their spears towards it. Clang! A soldier's spear pierced into the body of the barbarian bull, causing sparks to fly in all directions. The spear only left a white mark on the barbarian bull's scales. What? That soldier was badly startled. That spear strike earlier felt as though it had struck divine steel. Not only was it unable to break through the barbarian bull's scales, it even caused a slight pain in his hand. Moo! With a single charge, the barbarian bull directly knocked over 10 soldiers into the air. Its horn even pierced through the chest of one of the soldiers, causing him to be flung into the air. Disperse, let me handle it. At this moment, a general strode out. He pulled out the saber at his waist, and with a swing of his saber, he sliced the charging armored bull in half. And at this moment, the human army clashed with the beastmen army. Both sides fought with their lives on the line, and countless beasts died. However, the human army also suffered heavy casualties. Chapter 4201. In the eastern region of the mortal world, the armies of the Eastern Sage Empire and the Wensho country were having a decisive battle in the eastern desolate plains. The Emperor of the Eastern Sage Empire personally led an army of 800,000 elites, wanting to destroy the Wensho country. However, the Wensho country wasn't a force to be trifled with. The Beast Emperor of the Wensho country sent out 1,000,000 beastly soldiers, wanting to crush the 800,000-strong army of the Eastern Sage Empire, adding the Wensho country into their territory. Regardless of the Eastern Sage Imperial Lord or the Wensho country's Beast Emperor, both of them were overlords of an area, possessing incomparably powerful combat prowess. Eastern Sage Imperial Lord, prepare to die. The Beast Emperor roared in rage, directly driving his war chariot towards the Eastern Sage Imperial Lord. An intense baleful aura gushed forth from the Beast Emperor. Good timing, let me slay the Beast Emperor with a single sword strike. I'll use your Beast Emperor's blood as a sacrifice for my divine sword. The Eastern Sage Imperial Lord roared as he directly attacked. A resplendent beam of sword light shot out from the Eastern Sage Imperial Lord's hand, directly slashing towards the Beast Emperor. Haha, you want to kill me? You don't have that ability. The Beast Emperor laughed uproariously. However, a pitch-black beast claw directly slammed out from the war chariot, directly dissipating the sword light before continuing on towards the Eastern Sage Imperial Lord. Heaven-severing sword. The Eastern Sage Imperial Lord gritted his teeth and directly unleashed his trump card. Shua. The sword light flashed quickly in the void. In the next moment, the beast claw that was attacking him also dissipated in the void under the sword light. Blood splattered everywhere as the Beast Emperor screamed in agony, directly rushing out from his war chariot. In the next instant, his war chariot was actually split into two. The Beast Emperor was defeated. Just when the Eastern Sage Imperial Lord was about to attack again, a black hole appeared in the skies. After that, a figure fell out from the black hole. The Eastern Sage Imperial Lord was shocked when he saw this. That figure directly fell from the skies, and with a rumbling sound, he directly smashed into the battlefield below. In the next instant, the earth trembled as dust rose up into the air. Within a radius of 1,000 meters, everyone, including the beast men, were directly flung away as a huge crater appeared on the ground. What? Everyone who was watching the battle from afar was shocked by this sudden scene. At this time, the guy who fell from the sky walked out of the big pit on the ground. It's a human. Kill. A beast general roared as he took a huge step forward and smashed his hammer down on that person's head. That was a bronze hammer the size of a watermelon. If he was hit, he would be smashed into pieces. However, that person didn't seem to know what was happening. He stood there swaying as if he was about to fall. When the big bronze hammer came crashing down, he was looking around in confusion. Clang! The hammer in the beast general's hand smashed fiercely into the man's head, causing a muffled sound to ring out. The hammer in the beast general's hand was sent flying, and his hand was shattered. What? The people who witnessed this scene were all stunned, especially the beast general. He was very clear about the power of his hammer. Even a small mountain would be smashed to pieces. However, when the copper hammer hit the man's head, it did not hurt him at all. Where is this place? As if he didn't know that he had just been hit on the head, the man's confused eyes gradually cleared up. Human world, I'm finally back, haha, that person suddenly laughed out loud. He was Jiu Fei who had just returned from the heaven god world. At this time, Jiu Fei was in an extremely sorry state. His entire body was covered in dust, his hair was messy like a bird's nest, and his clothes were tattered. Some parts of his body were even stained with blood. Roar. Just then, the beast general in front of Jiu Fei roared and smashed his hammer at him with all his might. These bronze hammers were the tools that made this beast general famous. You're asking for death. Jiu Fei reached out with his right hand and grabbed the incoming bronze hammer. With a bam, the bronze hammer that was bigger than a watermelon was destroyed just like that. The beast general was dumbfounded. Bam! At this time, Jiu Fei kicked the beast general and sent him flying. In an instant, more than a dozen warriors were smashed to the ground. Swoosh! At this moment, a beam of divine light descended from the sky and pierced through Jiu Fei. The beast emperor was attacking, and his wounds were healing rapidly. Within the beam of light was a battle spear. Jiu Fei furrowed his brows and casually waved his hand, sending the spear flying out. At this moment, the skies suddenly darkened. The Air Force of the Wensho country had finally made their move. Numerous pterosaurs descended from the skies, snatching away the soldiers on the ground. Kill. The Eastern Sage Royal Lord was both shocked and enraged when he saw this. He directly took out the sword he had cultivated his entire life, and the sword instantly transformed into countless beams of sword light. The sword light shot up the skies, and the pterosaurs in the skies all fell down like dumplings. Eastern Sage Royal Lord, I will kill you. The Beast Emperor's eyes turned red when he saw the Eastern Sage Royal Lord slaughtering his own people. He wanted to fight to the death with the Eastern Sage Royal Lord. However, the Eastern Sage Royal Lord had no intentions of fighting to the death with him. Incomparably sharp beams of sword light shot out unceasingly from his hands. Each beam of sword light tore through the air, slashing towards the Beast Emperor. The Beast Emperor roared in rage, and his body trembled violently as a protective barrier of light appeared around him. Countless beams of sword light slammed into the barrier of light, causing it to tremble violently. However, it didn't break through. At this moment, a silhouette dashed up from the ground and punched out at the Beast Emperor. His fist easily penetrated the barrier of light, and landed on the Beast Emperor's chest. In the next instant, the sound of bones breaking rang out from the Beast Emperor's body. His entire chest caved in from the impact, and his chest was pressed against his back. The Beast Emperor stared at Ji Yufei in disbelief. He didn't even manage to say a single word before his entire body exploded, transforming into a mist of blood. The Eastern Sage Royal Lord couldn't help but be extremely shocked when he saw this. Killing the Beast Emperor with a single punch. The Beast Emperor was a quasi-paragon, a hegemon of an entire region. How could he be killed by a single punch? The spectators all felt as though they were in a dream. This was too surreal. Ji Yufei returned to the human world and killed the Beast Emperor with a single punch. In order to return to the human world, he paid a heavy price. His original cultivation base was almost crippled, and the him now only had the eternal true bone. If he encountered a true saint, he would truly be in for a ride of misfortune. Given his current cultivation base, he could already contend against a quasi-saint. Attacking me consecutively, do you think I'm easy to bully? After killing the Beast Emperor with a single punch, Ji Yufei dusted his hands and directly flew towards the Eastern Sage Royal Lord. Chapter 4202. Ji Yufei killed the Beast Emperor with a single punch, shocking the entire crowd. Everyone halted their steps in unison as they stared in shock at the scene in the air. His Majesty the Beast Emperor died. An old beast stared in terror at the silhouette in the air as his voice trembled. The countless soldiers of the Wensho country were all terrified to the extreme. With the death of the Beast Emperor, the ending of this battle was already decided. Retreat! That old beast howled in grief and anger. His voice reverberated through the entire eastern desolate region. The wyverns in the air instantly turned and fled. The fire-breathing beasts, armored bulls, and other demonic beasts all turned and fled for their lives. The Beast Emperor was the backbone of the countless soldiers. With the death of the Beast Emperor, countless soldiers instantly felt fear. And just when the army of beasts was fleeing, Ji Yufei took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of the Eastern Sage Royal Lord. The Eastern Sage Royal Lord was incomparably nervous, but he forced himself to remain calm. One must know that he was the royal lord of a dynasty after all. He naturally couldn't lose his composure in front of so many people. Many thanks for Senior's help. The Eastern Sage Royal Lord clasped his hands towards Ji Yufei in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Cut the crap, I want to know the current situation in the Eastern region and the human realm. Ji Yufei spoke as he directly stretched his hand out, grabbing towards the Eastern Sage Royal Lord's head. Senior, the Eastern Sage Royal Lord was badly startled. When Ji Yufei appeared, he was already on guard. The instant he saw Ji Yufei making a move, he instantly retreated with explosive speed. This fellow killed the Beast Emperor with a single punch. The Beast Emperor's cultivation base and combat prowess were on par with him. If Qin Wentian could kill the Beast Emperor, it meant that Qin Wentian could also kill him. However, the Eastern Sage Royal Lord had no way to escape. Just as he moved, Ji Yufei's right hand had already grabbed onto the crown of his head. The Eastern Sage Royal Lord only felt his head tightening as he felt a splitting headache as though his head was about to explode. Royal Lord, the generals under the Eastern Sage Royal Lord were all frightened out of their wits when they saw this scene. If the Eastern Sage Royal Lord died, they would most probably be buried together with him. Senior, why did you? An old god of war riding on a golden lion rushed over. He gripped his spear tightly and stared at Ji Yufei nervously. Ji Yufei didn't pay any attention to the old god of war. In the next moment, He activated his Xian art and directly read this guy's soul memory. In his eyes, the Eastern Sage Royal Lord was nothing but an ant. But no matter what, this fellow was still the emperor of the human race. He had no intention of killing the Eastern Sage Royal Lord. Dongfang family, primordial Zhao family, myriad phenomenon city, iron blood daoist. The true rulers of the Eastern Territory of the mortal dimension were only those extraordinary powers. No matter how many years had passed, it was still the same, and it basically wouldn't change. This was because these forces were deeply rooted and very difficult to shake. In the last 10 million years, only Ji Yufei had broken the balance of powers in the entire Eastern Territory and even the entire mortal dimension. Demons are dancing wildly, they've all come out. Ji Yufei sighed. The Eastern Sage Royal Lord was a quasi-saint, a royal lord of a generation, and naturally knew many things. And behind the Eastern Sage Royal dynasty, there was actually the Dongfang family. Back then, the grudge between Ji Yufei and the Dongfang family was temporarily put aside by Jiang Renhuang. But from the looks of it now, the Dongfang family and the Zhao clan seemed to have forgotten the pain after the scar healed. The myriad phenomenon city was Ji Yufei's territory. Before Ji Yufei left, he had conquered a vast territory and became the strongest power in the eastern region. However, after Ji Yufei left the mortal dimension, the days of the Iron Blood Daoist weren't good. At the start, the Zhao and Dongfang family didn't dare to do anything. However, when the Jiang clan of the Desolate Era couldn't even fend for themselves and the old turtle summoned Xiaoqing back to the Heaven Realm, the two major powers of the eastern region started to get restless. There were changes in the Heaven Realm and the old turtle had to stay in the Heaven Realm. Hence, the Zhao and Dongfang clan became even more unbridled and actually started to devour Ji Yufei's territory. Today, they would seize a city, tomorrow, they would seize a region. During these years, the territories Ji Yufei had conquered were almost half devoured by the two major powers. The Iron Blood Daoist was furious, but he didn't dare to say anything. One must know that without the support of the old turtle, how could he contend against the Zhao and Dongfang clan? Naturally, the Zhao and Dongfang clan were still wary of Ji Yufei. If Ji Yufei returned, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Good, very good. Ha ha ha. Ji Yufei released the Eastern Sage Royal Lord as he laughed uproariously. Terrifying sound waves blasted out in all directions, causing the entire space to tremble. The Eastern Sage Royal Lord was directly flung 1,000 miles away by the sound waves as he coughed out blood unceasingly. Countless soldiers fainted from the impact. Everyone was shocked to the extreme. Who is this person? He actually killed the Beast Emperor of the Wensho country with a single punch and captured the Eastern Sage Royal Lord with a single strike. Such a cultivation base, is he a saint? Someone exclaimed in shock. The combat prowess displayed by Ji Yufei was simply too shocking. One must know that these two supreme experts were all quasi-sages. If he wasn't a saint, what else could he be? The current human realm was already different from the past. Let alone saints, even saint kings and even quasi-paragons would jump out. Naturally, quasi-paragons were like dragons that moved their heads but not their tails. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to see them. Even for saints, it wasn't so easy to meet them. New grudges and old grudges. Let's settle them all together. Ji Yufei spoke as he soared up into the sky, transforming into a beam of divine light that instantly vanished into the horizon. Upon seeing Ji Yufei's departure, the countless generals of the Eastern Sage Royal dynasty heaved a sigh of relief. They were so afraid that this expert who suddenly appeared would act against them. Kill all these savage beasts. After regaining their senses, the Eastern Sage divine generals roared in rage at their own troops. This was an extremely rare opportunity to annihilate the Wensho Empire. Momentarily, the army of the Eastern Sage Royal dynasty was like the tides, chasing after the fleeing savage beasts. The Eastern Sage Royal Lord stared in the direction where Ji Yufei disappeared as he felt an indescribable shock. In front of this person, he couldn't even be compared to an ant. If Ji Yufei wanted to kill the Eastern Sage Royal Lord, it would be as easy as blowing off dust. At this moment in the myriad phenomenon city, the Iron Blood Daoist was at his wit's end. He initially wanted to send people to the heavenly realm, but he ultimately gave up on this idea because the people he sent out wouldn't be able to reach the heavenly realm. The Ironblood Daoist was very clear who did this. In fact, even if his people could go to the heavenly realm and meet with Xiaoqing, they might not be able to invite Xiaoqing over. City Lord, what should we do now? Even the intelligent Zhu Galiang was at his wits' end at this moment. Promise them. In the great hall of the City Lord Manor, the Ironblood Daoist gritted his teeth as he spoke. When Master returns, these fellows will know how wrong they were. The Ironblood Daoist said in a low voice. All of them had Ji Yu Fei's imprint on them. Once Ji Yu Fei falls, they would be buried with him. Now that they were still alive, Ji Yu Fei would naturally be alive as well. That's right, these clans are laughable. Once Master returns, I'm afraid they won't even be able to cry. Zhu Guliang waved the feather fan in his hand and said, Haha, at least you guys are tactful. At this moment, a loud laughter resounded from outside the great hall. The Ironblood Daoist raised his head abruptly and saw two people swaggering in from outside the hall. Zhao Jianfeng, Dongfang Juanxiong, you guys. When Zhu Guliang saw the two of them, his expression changed. The expressions of the other experts in the great hall changed as well. Haha. Aren't you going to treat us with good food and wine? If we are in a good mood, we will go back and put in some good words for you guys in front of our clan lord. You guys will definitely soar. The Zhao clan's Zhao Jianfeng said with disdain. That's right. If you treat us well, you guys will receive many benefit. Dongfang Juanxiong added. You guys. The Ironblood Daoist was shocked, furious, and unwilling. However, he couldn't do anything to the two of them. One must know that the two of them were envoys sent by the Dongfang clan and the Primordial Era's Zhao clan. If he were to kill them, it would be the same as declaring war against the two great forces. The Ironblood Daoist could only swallow his anger. Who dares to cause trouble here? At this moment, a voice resounded from outside the great hall. Hearing this voice, the Ironblood Daoist and Zhu Guliang revealed expressions of disbelief before becoming extremely excited. The Ironblood Daoist and Zhu Guliang looked towards the great hall's entrance and saw a young man in black walking in step by step. Seeing the young man in black, the Ironblood Daoist and Zhu Guliang were indescribably shocked. This person was Ji Yu Fei. Ji Yu Fei looked even younger than before. He was getting younger as he lived. Who are you? How dare you act so impudently in front of us? Aren't you afraid of death? Dongfang Juanxiong roared at Ji Yu Fei. He didn't take this young man seriously at all. Tempage, why are you talking so much nonsense? Kill. Zhao Jianfeng snorted coldly and stretched out his hand to grab Ji Yu Fei. Ha ha. Ji Yu Fei laughed. The Ironblood Daoist and Zhu Guliang laughed as well. This guy doesn't know what's good for him. In the eyes of the Ironblood Daoist and the rest, Zhao Jianfeng and Dongfang Juanxiong were really silly and cute. Ji Yu Fei slapped him. Slap. With a resounding slap, Zhao Jianfeng was sent flying to the side by Ji Yu Fei. He crashed into a pillar and almost broke it. Zhao Jianfeng fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Among the blood, there were a dozen teeth. In the next moment, the left side of his face swelled up. You. Seeing this, Dongfang Juanxiong was really shocked. When Ji Yu Fei looked at him, he couldn't help but take a step back. Master is finally back. The Ironblood Daoist and Zhu Guliang were extremely excited at this moment. How dare you hit someone from the Zhao family? Dongfang Juanxiong's voice was trembling. So what if I did? I'm going to hit you too. As Ji Yu Fei spoke, he waved his right hand and gave another loud slap. Dongfang Juanxiong, the envoy of the Dongfang family, was also sent flying and became dizzy from the slap. Just wait to be destroyed. At this moment, Zhao Jianfeng stood up shakily from the ground and stared at Ji Yu Fei viciously. And you guys, Wanxiang City will be wiped off the ground. Zhao Jianfeng glanced at the Ironblood Daoist and said coldly. Want to destroy me? I'll destroy you first. As Ji Yu Fei spoke, he struck out with his palm. Zhao Jianfeng didn't even have the chance to scream before he was smashed into meat paste. Chapter 4203. How dare you squeak in front of me? I'll slap you to death. Ji Yufei casually smashed the arrogant envoy of the Zhao family, Zhao Jianfeng, into minced meat with a palm strike. He immediately died, and even his soul had dispersed. He could no longer convert to the way of ghosts even if he wanted to. This, everyone present gasped. Zhao Jianfeng was a quasi-sage, yet he was casually slapped to death by this young man in black. Is this young man a young sage? In the hall, only the two old men, the Iron-Blood Daoist and Zhuge Liang, knew of Ji Yufei's identity. The others were all newcomers and they had never seen Ji Yufei before. Ji Yufei had been away for a long time. Ever since the emergence of the power of heavenly punishment, the human world had been in chaos. The 5 major regions of the human world were in turmoil, especially with the appearance of the demons, which made the human world even more chaotic. Moreover, Ji Yufei had a great enmity with the demons. Countless demon Dao experts had died in his hands. He even annihilated the East Region demon lair and killed countless demons. However, even if Ji Yufei annihilated the East Region demon lair, the East Region was still plagued by demons. Especially in Wanxiang City, the demons would attack from time to time. Over the years, other than the Iron-Blood Daoist and Zhuge Liang, the others in Wanxiang City were all new faces. Do you know what you're doing? At this moment, a middle-aged man in the hall shouted angrily at Ji Yufei. Why? Do you have a problem with me killing this guy? Ji Yufei looked at the man. This man was sitting on the first seat below the city lord's throne. He must be one of the higher-ups in Wanxiang City, second only to the city lord, the Iron-Blood Daoist and the military advisor, Zhuge Liang. Of course I have a problem. Do you know that you're in trouble? Killing Zhao Jianfeng will infuriate the Zhao clan and Wanxiang City will be destroyed. The middle-aged man said coldly. Is that so? Ji Yufei looked at the middle-aged man with a faint smile and said, what if I kill this guy too? Ji Yufei said and looked at Dongfang Juanxiong. What? Seeing Ji Yufei looking at him, Dongfang Juanxiong was shocked. How dare you? The middle-aged man glared at Ji Yufei and said. Haha, why wouldn't I dare? There is nothing in this world that I dare not do. Ji Yufei waved his right hand and slapped at Dongfang Juanxiong. Dongfang Juanxiong immediately dodged, but in the next moment, he was horrified to find out that he couldn't move, not even a finger. No. Dongfang Juanxiong was scared out of his wits. He could only watch helplessly as his opponent's palm came towards him. Just a moment ago, this palm had turned Zhao Jianfeng of the Zhao family into minced meat. Impudent. The middle-aged man was enraged when he saw this. He leapt up from his seat and swung his palm at Ji Yufei. Berserk Saint Realm power erupted from his hand, causing the space to tremble. This middle-aged man was actually a saint. The Iron-Blood Daoist and Zhuge Liang didn't stop him. Since this guy dared to attack their master, he deserved to be killed by their master. They didn't know that Ji Yufei was forced into reincarnation by the first demon ancestor, and his cultivation was almost erased by the power of reincarnation. Although he managed to recover some of his cultivation, it was still his first time facing a saint. Even Ji Yufei didn't know if he could fight against a real saint with his current cultivation and battle strength. He had never experienced such a state before. No one knew how powerful the eternal real bone was. Bam! Ji Yufei slapped Dongfang Juanxiong's right hand and turned him into a bloody mist. Even his primordial spirit exploded and dissipated in the void. At the same time, he raised his left hand and blocked the middle-aged man's palm. The hall was instantly filled with a powerful force, as if a terrifying wind was blowing. The people in the hall felt pain on their faces as if sharp blades were slicing across their faces. Ji Yufei stomped his right foot. Bam! The entire city lord's residence shook. At the same time, his spine shook like a dragon and an even more powerful force surged into his left hand. He shook his left hand and sent the middle-aged saint flying backward. He fell to the ground in an extremely pathetic manner. The middle-aged saint was in disbelief. This young man isn't even a quasi-saint. He's at most an almighty. How could he possibly block his palm? It wasn't rare for an almighty to kill a quasi-saint. The battle strength that Jiyu Fei displayed was simply astonishing. One must know that there were many heaven-defying existences in the current world. These geniuses among geniuses could kill opponents of a higher cultivation level than them. However, these heaven-defying existences couldn't and wouldn't dare to challenge a saint. In the eyes of a saint, anyone below the saint level was just an ant. Yet, an ant had actually shaken a true dragon. This was unbelievable. How could this be? This was absolutely impossible. How is this possible? The upper echelons of Wanxiang City in the hall were all dumbfounded. Who exactly are you? The middle-aged saint stood up from the ground and glared at Jiyu Fei. Wujue, don't be rude. At this moment, the Iron Blood Daoist finally spoke. City Lord's residence, you. The saint named Wujue looked at the Iron Blood Daoist in confusion. Master, you're finally back. Before the Iron Blood Daoist could say anything, Zhu Guliang had already rushed up and hugged Jiyu Fei's thigh as he began to cry and complain. Everyone was dumbfounded. One must know that Zhu Guliang was the second most powerful person in Wanxiang City. Sometimes, even the Iron Blood Daoist had to listen to him. However, the usually high and mighty great sage Zhuge had actually lost his composure in front of this black-clothed young man. He was hugging his thigh and crying out loud. What? Master, at this moment, the upper echelons of Wanxiang City in the hall suddenly woke up. Wasn't the master of the Iron Blood Daoist and Zhuge Liang the true master of Wanxiang City, Jiyu Fei? This black-clothed young man was the legendary fierce Jiyu Fei who had fought in the Sky Market, destroyed the Eastern Demon Den, and dared to trample the demon forefather under his feet. Back then, Jiyu Fei had fought everywhere and killed more than one demon forefather. Even the Eastern Sky Tyrant Emperor had avoided him, unwilling to make an enemy out of him. The Eastern Sky Tyrant Emperor was an ancestor-level existence of the Dongfang family in the Eastern Domain. He wielded the Grand Orient Sword and swept through all directions. However, when this Tyrant Emperor met Jiyu Fei, he had no choice but to admit that he was inferior to Jiyu Fei. Of course, an existence like the Eastern Sky Tyrant Emperor was not to be trifled with. If not for Jiang Runhuang's mediation, the battle between Jiyu Fei and the Eastern Sky Tyrant Emperor would have probably destroyed the entire Eastern Domain. This would definitely be a great disaster for the entire human race. I, Jiyu Fei, have returned.